The kill zone. Moist city. A shadow blots out the sun. An ancient dragon tears through the sky. Hellfire rains from its maw. The world burns. Mortals scatter like insects. The frontline defenders tremble. Why has this calamity descended? Then, a single shout pierces the chaos. Up there, the White Knight, the lone anomaly who shattered the national borders. 𝐔𝐃𝐃𝐃 watches in despair. The master of the desolate ghost guild falls to his knees. The power gap is absolute. Is this the apex? The true might of the divine dragon empire's absolute strongest? Mythos City will fall. It is an undeniable fact. Disbelief chokes the battlefield. How can one mere mortal harbor such apocalyptic power? Yet, the nightmare is real. High above, the necromancer stands upon the dragon's skull. White Knight. To the masses below, he is no longer a player. He is a god of death. He raises a single hand. The gates of the abyss burst open. An endless legion of the undead floods the earth. Devour it all. Consume their flesh. Feed his endless hunger for power. Even amidst this slaughter, his eyes remain cold. Not enough. This power is still lacking. The Myriad Worlds Game granted him a second chance at life. His only directive? Transcend all limits. He remembers the abyss. One singular health point. One fleeting year to live. He crawled back from the jaws of absolute oblivion and carved his path to the pinnacle. Months ago, the realm of Blue Star. The sterile hum of a hospital room. A broken man lies tethered to the machinery of life. Su Mubai. A shadow moves beside his bed. Slender fingers twist the life support dials. Her voice drips with venom. Die quietly, and do not dare return as a vengeful spirit. That voice. It strikes his soul like a poisoned blade. Liu Ruan. His body is a paralyzed tomb, but his mind rages with crystal clarity. Why? His heart screams the silent question. His life force still flickers. She is his sworn fiancée. Why sever his final tether to the living? Her gaze holds no pity. You are already a corpse, she whispers. I am granting you mercy. In the darkness of his mind, Mubai barks a soundless, bitter laugh. He was the absolute sovereign of Blue Star, the peerless champion, a titan who commanded trillions, reduced to empty flesh by a catastrophic accident. Now, trapped in his own rotting skull, hearing everything, commanding nothing, rebellious fury boils in his veins. How did his glorious empire crumble into this? Suddenly, the ward doors crash open. A blonde figure steps from the shadows. Why delay the kill? He sneers. Jao Shu, his supposed brother-in-arms from the university days. The traitor chuckles darkly. Did you actually fall for this crippled dog? Is your blade too heavy to strike? The revelation violently shatters Mubai's soul. Jao Shu. Why is he here? The traitor smiles a serpentine grin. He mocks the dead. Mubai's parents are already ash. When his final breath leaves this room, Ruan will inherit the absolute entirety of his empire. The puzzle pieces snap together. The horrifying truth suffocates him. A viper's nest. They had shared a bed of lies this entire time. Zhao pulls the treacherous woman against his chest. 5 years, he boasts. 5 years since I planted her in your life. A masterfully orchestrated symphony of betrayal. All for this exact moment. Ruan's eyes flash with ice. You failed to crush him in the wreckage. She snaps. You forced my hand to dirty work. The treachery violently shreds Mubai's reality. He offered them his absolute loyalty. He treated them as his own blood. A sworn brother and a beloved soulmate. Zhao shrugs with cold indifference. The crash was absolute devastation. How a mere mortal survived it, he could never comprehend. But today, destiny ends. Even if the heavens descend, you will perish. His hand shoots forward like a striking snake. He rips away the lifeline of oxygen. The murderer's embrace. Twisted affection blooms over a dying man. But Ruan pushes him back. Restrain your hunger. Defiling a deathbed invites the curse of the abyss. Arrogant laughter echoes off the sterile walls. He hoists her into his arms, claiming his dark prize. I will conquer you soon enough, he threatens. A wicked smile graces her treacherous lips. Below them, Mubai suffocates. His lungs scream for air. The darkness creeps into his vision. The agonizing truth is permanently carved into his dying soul. From their very first encounter, he was nothing but prey. A sheep being led to the slaughter. A volcanic rage erupts within his paralyzed shell. Move! Command this broken flesh. I will not fade into the night. This pathetic demise cannot be my final chapter. Unyielding willpower defies death itself. Then, the fabric of reality tears apart. A colossal, ethereal gateway materializes from the void. The globe freezes in absolute terror. Is this the dawn of a cosmic invasion? A majestic mechanical voice shatters the heavens. Blue Star has been chosen. Welcome to the Myriad Worlds Game. All worldly power is erased. Every soul is reset to absolute zero. Prepare for mass transmigration. 30 seconds remain until the grand shift. A flood of divine knowledge crashes into every mortal mind. The rules of survival. The undeniable truth. This is no illusion. Reality as they know it has just been obliterated. The system interfaces burn into their retinas. What demonic trial is this? A woman trembles under the weight of the unknown. A savage grin crosses a commoner's face. The kings and tycoons should tremble. Their gold means nothing here. The playing field has been violently leveled. Back in the trader's den, the system panels glow menacingly over their stolen triumph. Ruan's arrogant facade crumbles. Alien battlefields? Endless slaughter? Panic grips her treacherous heart. Zhao roars in impotent fury. The crown of absolute wealth was within his grasp. Trillions of stolen assets, now reduced to meaningless dust by a cosmic system. A sudden realization strikes the Viper's mind. The system laws are absolute. If a soul clings to a single breath, they are eligible for the descent. Could that dying dog actually cross over? Zhao scoffs with venomous disdain. Let him survive 30 seconds. A ruined vegetable in reality will only be a crippled waste in the new world. The celestial clock strikes 0. The grand teleportation protocol ignites. Within his rotting shell, Mubai holds the line of life. The heavens have not abandoned him. This is his divine retribution. Death is denied. Surrender is not in his vocabulary. Pillars of blinding starlight eradicate the shadows. Mortals are pulled toward the great unknown. The cowards wail in terror, clinging to their shattered reality. But the ambitious? They charge into the light with roaring battle cries. The era of gods has arrived. A soul figure materializes within the sacred Descender's temple. Mubai opens his eyes. The paralysis is gone. His feet touch solid stone. He has been reborn. The cosmic system echoes in his mind. Welcome, mortals of Blue Star. Biometric scan initiated. Status granted. Descender. State your true identifier. Power courses through his once dead veins. To breathe again. It is absolute ecstasy. White Knight. The system chimes in approval. The dormant power within his soul begins to burn. The starry sky hall demands a trial. Every soul must forge their destiny. The awakening ceremony commences. 9 tiers of absolute power. From pathetic F rank to the godlike triple S. In this ruthless domain, your talent dictates your survival. The White Knight stares into the blinding light. Will fate curse him? Or anoint him as a god? Against all odds, the heavens favor him. He awakens an S-rank forbidden talent. Promotion. A power far beyond mortal comprehension. Even he stands in awe of this boundless potential. This divine gift grants 3 world-breaking abilities. The first is promotion. It permanently ascends any object to a higher tier. No price demanded. Absolute elevation. The second is sublimation. By sacrificing worldly resources, an object instantly ascends 2 entire tiers. The final ability is cataclysm. It devours mortal lifespan to elevate a target by 3 devastating tiers. Awakening an apocalyptic exclusive effect. Fortune smiles upon him. The very first use of cataclysm demands no sacrifice. The world's foundational classes divide into 4 paths: physical power, arcane magic, absolute defense, and divine support. White Knight ponders his destiny. To wield a brutal blade, or command the roaring elements. But the supreme system intervenes. It scans his mortal vessel. His base attributes fall desperately short of the light. The grand class options shatter one by one, fading into the abyss. Confusion clouds his mind. What twisted fate is this? Then, the eternal system pronounces its cold judgment. Bound by his cursed attributes, only one dark path remains open. Necromancer. The system seals his fate without mercy. The ruler of the dead is chosen. Choice was merely an illusion. Yet, commanding the undead holds its own dark majesty. But a chilling anomaly catches his eye, a curse upon his very soul. His vitality is locked, frozen permanently at a single health point. Horror grips his life. He hangs on to life by a single drop of blood. One strike means instant annihilation. The nightmare only deepens. The hourglass of his existence runs empty. He has a mere 1 year left to live. Despair threatens to swallow him. The supreme S-rank talent feels like a cruel joke, but surrender is not an option. He must roll the dice with destiny. The forbidden power of promotion burns within his veins. He makes a fateful choice. He will ascend his dark class. To force a necromancer up 3 entire tiers, the heavens would demand a staggering toll. 100,000 years of life force. But fate leaves him a loophole. The maiden voyage of cataclysm remains completely free. His resolve hardens like steel. Without a flicker of doubt, he commands the ultimate upgrade to begin. Heavenly chimes ring out. The system heralds his miraculous evolution. He ascends to the supreme hidden realm. Death Sovereign. His mortal limitations shatter. He will now claim 15 free attribute points upon every ascension. Ancient knowledge floods his mind. 2 primordial skills unlock: lifelink and summon amplification. A legendary artifact materializes in his grasp, the Book of Death. His hidden class now resonates with the apocalyptic cataclysm trait. A predatory smirk crosses his face. True power courses through his veins at last. The deadly gamble has paid off in absolute triumph. Suddenly, the divine voice booms across existence. The Myriad Worlds Game commences. In a mere 10 seconds, all mortals must brace for impact. White Knight realizes his fatal oversight. He had lost himself entirely in the depths of his new power. Memories of betrayal flash like lightning. Ruan and Xiao. Murderous intent flares in his eyes. He vows to hunt down that treacherous pair. They will beg for mercy in an abyss of eternal despair. The final second falls. The Myriad Worlds Game descends upon reality. The rules here are ruthless. Death strips away power. It devours 10% of a soul's lifespan, a merciless minimum toll of 10 years per demise. But the heavens offer temporary mercy. Within the sanctuary of the novice village, death claims only levels, sparing precious life. The celestial gates fly open. The players of the bluest star are hurled into the chaotic realms. Space tears apart. They crash into the divine dragon empire. Novice village number 9527. The system whispers a hollow blessing. Survive the merciless journey ahead. Euphoria grips the masses. The mythical realms of ancient legends. The epic tales of fantasy. They have manifested into flesh and blood reality. A new era dawns. Frantic alliances forge in the streets. Weaklings huddle together for survival. But White Knight stands apart. He marches to the village gates. Time to unleash the abyss. He calls forth a skeletal minion. A fragile F-rank aberration rises. A level 1 bone soldier sworn to his will. It requires 3 agonizing seconds to manifest, a 30-second resting period, and drains 20 points of magical essence. Its meager strength relies solely on his own spirit. Yet, he possesses another weapon, the active art of Scorch, a primordial F-rank flame, level 1, waiting to be unleashed. It erupts as pure soul fire, incinerating the very essence of its prey, inflicting 150% spell damage, scorching flesh over 5 merciless seconds. It strikes from 30 meters away, takes 2 seconds to chant, and requires 5 seconds to cool, a meager tribute of 10 mana. White Knight smiles into the dark. The foundation of his empire is set. 1 loyal servant, 1 deadly flame. Furthermore, the supreme lifelink skill beats within his core. A level 1 active art. It binds his soul to his undead thralls, forging an unbreakable chain of shared vitality. The connection strikes instantly, demanding a mere 10 seconds before it can be forged anew. Then lies his absolute trump card, Summon Amplification, a transcendent S-rank passive law, boundless and levelless. It halves chant times, obliterates cooldowns by 50%, and violently inflates his minion's power by an astonishing 500%. A dark chuckle escapes his lips. The brutal game has barely begun, yet he already commands both A-rank and S-rank divine laws. The imbalance is deliciously wicked. Through Lifelink's unbreakable tether, his skeletal army becomes his shield. His cursed single drop of health no longer dictates his fate. Suddenly, an ominous presence manifests. The legendary Book of Death materializes. This cursed tome belongs to the Sovereign alone, a divine offhand artifact brimming with dark majesty. It defies the laws of physics, impossible to drop, impervious to destruction, and bound to his soul forever. The grimoire slumbers at level 0. Its true terrifying stats await his ascension to level 1. At level 10, its apocalyptic traits will awaken. It is the ultimate codex of the underworld, written in a language only he can decipher. When the stars align and conditions are met, its forbidden pages will open, bestowing exclusive, devastating arts, worthy only of the Death Sovereign. For now, the tome remains a dormant shadow, its true wrath locked until level 10. He pushes the divine artifact from his mind. His gaze sharpens. It is time to test the terrifying might of his undead army. He invokes the spell of bone and shadow once more, but reality fractures. Two skeletal warriors tear through the earth simultaneously. The system chimes with an apocalyptic warning. The supreme cataclysm trait has awakened. The authority of the Death Sovereign bends reality. Every spell he weaves is violently duplicated, though the deeper mysteries of his dark class remain sealed away for now, waiting for his power to catch up. Yet, the dual manifestations look pitifully fragile, mere rattling bones in the wind. But a shadow falls across his path. Another ambitious soul has been watching from the sidelines, witnessing the dual summon miracle. Greed flickers in the stranger's eyes. He assumes this must be the work of a mighty A-rank genius. Stepping forward, he demands an alliance of convenience, flaunting his own supposed A-rank superiority. He envisions them sweeping the battlefield together in glorious slaughter. But White Knight's eyes are cold as ice. He rejects the mortal instantly. The Sovereign of Death walks his bloody path alone. Without a second glance, he turns his back on the fool. Humiliated wrath twists the stranger's face. He hurls vicious insults at White Knight's retreating shadow, mocking him as a pathetic fraud, a weakling who couldn't even slaughter a lowly wild fowl. Mubai strides into the darkened woods. A pathetic scene unfolds before his eyes. A desperate squad of players locked in a life-or-death struggle. Their monstrous opponent? A single, furious, free-range chicken. The armored shield-bearer curses his miserable fate. Battered and bruised by a mere bird, he wails about its terrifying strength. His frontline comrade screams through gritted teeth, demanding he shut up and strike the killing blow. The squad's sorcerer gasps in utter disbelief. This demonic fowl's physical power eclipses his own arcane might. The cruel truth of this world reveals itself. A level 0 human is nothing but prey to a level 1 beast. One warrior shatters under the pressure, throwing down his weapon in absolute despair. He vows to flee back to the sanctuary for a peaceful trade, screaming that only lunatics would seek out such a hellish battle. The terrifying beast stands its ground. A level 1 demonic fowl, boasting 100 out of 100 health points, 10 points of devastating attack power, and 5 points in both physical and arcane defense. A true nightmare for the weak. White Knight strides past the crowd. Two skeletal warriors march at his side. The surrounding party freezes. Whispers erupt through the ranks. Those bone warriors radiate terrifying power. They realize instantly. This man possesses an elite awakening. Bitter envy poisons their eyes. A comrade barks a harsh command. Break the trance. Focus on the slaughter. The lowly beast before them demands their immediate attention. White Knight ignores their petty prey. His gaze remains utterly cold. His newfound class defies common sense. Unleashing this absolute power on mere fodder? A pure insult to his absolute strength. The air suddenly shifts. Shadows violently rustle the nearby underbrush. Danger approaches. Two beasts violently burst from the darkness. Crimson-eyed beasts. Level 2. 150 health points. 15 attack power. 7 points in both physical and magical defense. Lethal predators. They launch upward like bloody arrows. Their target? A fatal, crippling strike from beneath. White Knight's instincts scream. One hit could spell total ruin. The beasts crash into his undead vanguard. 13 to 15 damage rips through the bone. A cold smirk crosses his face. He stands utterly untouched. The isolation of this zone provides the perfect theater. Time to unleash his true potential. He raises his hand. More undead warriors shall rise to test their dreadful might. He issues a merciless decree. Annihilate them. The skeletal knights surge forward. Rusted blades carve through the air. A symphony of slaughter echoes. One crimson beast falls lifeless to the earth. The system chimes. A 50% level gap bonus triggers. +3 experience points flood his soul. The pace is exhilarating. Level 1 approaches rapidly. He commands the status window to manifest. His mortal vessel hangs by a thread. 1 maximum health point. But his divine talent defies death itself. Through lifelink, a terrifying synergy occurs. One warrior boasts 400 perfect vitality. The second stands at 393. The multiplied resilience is absolutely staggering. 2 undead guardians anchor his soul. His fragile existence is forged in steel. He has transcended the realm of a single, fatal blow. However, caution governs his mind. An overwhelming army invites dangerous eyes. He must conceal his monstrous potential. 4 undead soldiers. A perfect, deadly balance. The bloody harvest resumes. 4 skeletal reapers scatter into the wilds. They slaughter anything breathing. Soon, the scent of death, they witness an impossible reality. This man commands total carnage with a simple stroll. Effortless domination. A god walking amongst mere mortals. A rival conjurer clenches his fists in despair. His own pathetic creations pale against this undead royalty. Another watcher trembles. 4 simultaneous summons? This monster must possess an S-rank destiny. A trembling voice cuts through the tension. This man's absolute power is terrifying. He already rivals the legendary lords of Novice Village, 9,527. In that exact moment, the heavens part. A majestic golden light cascades downward. The system declares his ascension. Level up. Achieved. Power courses through his veins. 4 core attributes rise by 1. A singular skill point awakens. 15 raw attribute points await his command. Level 1 is finally his. A dark smile graces his lips. The glowing character interface materializes. He calculates his path to supremacy. His undead legion draws power from his soul. The spirit attribute demands total priority. Yet, his fragile body remains a fatal flaw. 1 single drop of blood. Raw speed is the ultimate shield against death. He pours 4 points into agility. 11 points surge directly into his spirit. His cosmic talent hungers for evolution. The time has come to ascend his mortal techniques. He issues the absolute command. Promote. The system bows to his will. Evolution complete. F rank crumbles into dust. E rank summon skeleton is born. The pathetic scorch ignites into an E rank inferno. And his ace? The A rank lifelink shatters its limits. It erupts into a divine S rank miracle. This newly forged E rank art is devastating. A skeletal champion rises from the abyss. 3 seconds to manifest. A 30-second window of absolute void. 40 mana fuels this dark creation. Its boundless strength mirrors his own spirit. Meanwhile, Scorch transforms into a living nightmare. 200% spell devastation over 5 agonizing seconds. A 30-meter zone of death. 2 seconds to cast. A 5-second recharge. 20 mana incinerated. Suddenly, the system fractures. An ancient law rewrites itself. Death conscription awakens. An unparalleled SS rank passive. A supreme authority that transcends leveling itself. Its forbidden laws are absolute. The first mandate? Casting time plummets by 75%. The second? Cooldowns vanish by 75%. The third decree shatters reality. His dark legions double their base attributes. A 100% surge in raw, devastating power. Finally, his spatial domain expands. The summoning capacity is completely doubled. White Knight chuckles in the face of godhood. Lifelink truly reigns supreme in the S-rank tier. His life force binds to his immortal legion. His defensive threshold violently erupts into the heavens. His mortal body claims only 1 hit point. But his true vitality is an abyssal fortress. A towering 9,000 health points shield his soul. Under the banner of death conscription, an army of 20 skeletal champions awaits his order. The era of hiding in the shadows is over. Absolute power demands a proper slaughter. He tears open the void. An aggressive crusade of leveling is about to begin. His abilities have touched the sky. Now, his armaments must follow suit. He commands the evolution of his exclusive artifact. The system hums with cosmic energy. The legendary promotion succeeds. The Book of Death sheds its mortal bindings. Behold the Death Scripture, a sovereign relic bound strictly to his soul. Unbreakable, untradeable, undroppable. It bends perfectly to his mental command. At rank 1, it hovers like a silent guardian. 15 points of arcane fury surge into his core, but its true cataclysmic potential slumbers. The seals will finally break at level 10. A flicker of annoyance crosses his gaze. A mere 15 spell power feels trivial to a king. The path forward is obvious. He must butcher his way to the 10th threshold. His resolve hardens. The true massacre commences now. He unleashes the bone tide. A terrifying swarm of death sweeps the plains. Their prey? A demonic vulpine beast lurking in the shadows. He pushes his limits to the absolute brink. 20 skeletal nightmares rise from the earth. The SS rank death conscription fractures time itself. A 75% reduction in the laws of magic. The cataclysm trait merges with this dark magic. 2 mere seconds to forge a soldier of bone. The unholy army marches on. They tear through level 3 Razorclaw demons. Every slaughter yields a 50% level gap bonus and 5 glorious experience points. The explosive growth is utterly intoxicating. Power flows like a raging river. The golden system light descends once more. Level 2 has been breached. 4 foundational stats elevate by 1. A singular skill point unlocks. 15 raw attribute points flood his reserves. He does not hesitate. The endless massacre of his Bone Legion continues. 30 minutes of pure devastation pass. He halts before an ancient, monolith-like stone. Swirling vortexes of energy warp the air. This is the gateway. The very first abyssal dungeon awaits. The Mist Forest. Legends speak of god-tier artifacts hidden within its cursed fog, but its soil is drenched in the blood of the fallen. Absolute danger lurks behind every shadow. The divine system issues a dire warning. Does he dare step into the abyss alone? A fearless smirk cuts across his face. He confirms the suicide mission instantly. Alone, he has a legion of death marching at his heels. The gateway demands a tribute of difficulty. 5 glowing runes materialize in the air. Easy, normal, hard, nightmare, and the forbidden realm of hell. His finger strikes the blood-red rune without a second thought. Hell mode activated. He crosses the threshold of reality. The terrifying mist forest swallows him whole. Suffocating fog chokes the very air, blinding all mortal sight. He issues a singular, chilling command. Cleave a path of blood. Annihilate everything in the shadows. His mental dominion extends for 100 meters. The undead army vanishes into the fog, ready to bring hell to hell itself. Without this bond, the dense fog would swallow his undead army whole. A fatal mistake in this cursed mist. The vanguard halts. A shadowy figure emerges from the gloom. An elite level 8 mist tree demon. It boasts 3,600, over 3,600 health points, 74 attack power, 60 physical defense, and 40 magic defense. It wields the deadly Entangle skill. White Knight smiles. The thrill of battle ignites his blood. Finally, worthy prey. He commands his legion to strike. The demon retaliates instantly. Twisted roots erupt from the earth. Vicious vines snare a skeletal warrior. Bone shatters under the crushing force. Its arms are torn away completely. White Knight observes the devastation. An elite monster commands true terror. Yet, individual strength means nothing against an endless tide. He unleashes the full fury of his undead horde. Blades rain down without mercy. The creature is ripped apart. The voice of the system echoes. The level 8 elite falls to dust. A 50% level gap bonus triggers. Plus 60 experience points surge into his soul. The Mist Forest was once a mere level 5 domain. Hell difficulty twisted its very nature. Every beast mutated into a level 8 elite. The resulting power surge is absolutely intoxicating. Suddenly, the shadows shift behind him. Murderous intent descends from the canopy. A massive shadow plunges downward. He evades the lethal strike by a hair's breadth. Behold the Mist Tree Python. Another terrifying level 8 elite. It possesses 3,000 over 3,000 health points, 108 attack power, 52 physical defense, and 30 magic defense. It masters the suffocating strangle technique. This beast exists only to crush life into nothingness. White Knight raises his staff. Azure hellfire erupts from the tip. The blazing spheres strike true. They inflict 98 and 101 damage points. The undead vanguard floods the opening. Rusted blades carve through scaled flesh. The mighty serpent collapses in a pool of dark blood. The system tolls once more. The level 8 elite is vanquished. Another 50% bonus activates. Plus 60 experience points flood his veins. His spiritual power dwarfs that of ordinary necromancers threefold. Yet, his personal magic pales in comparison. The sheer brutality of his skeleton army remains unmatched. The corpse yields its hidden treasures. A level 5 tree python belt appears. Black iron grade equipment. It holds 30 over 30 durability. It grants plus 9 armor and plus 2 constitution. It coils around the wearer like a living serpent. White Knight exhales a cold breath. A magnificent relic, but useless to a master of death who shuns leather. Nevertheless, gold holds its own absolute power. He stores the prize away. The march of death resumes. The Bone Legion advances deeper into the abyss. Malicious eyes pierce the heavy fog. The time for the grand harvest has arrived. His legion moves as one terrifying entity. They slaughter demons and serpents in a unified storm of destruction. The battlefield descends into orchestrated carnage. Blood and bone paint the cursed soil. A golden light pierces the gloom. He has ascended to level 5. Divine energy refines his mortal vessel. Every core attribute gains +1 point. He acquires +1 skill point and +15 free attributes. Power continuously floods his system. The slaughter yields a bountiful harvest. Spoils of war litter the bloody ground. Black iron weapons and a wooden wand. A venomous short dagger and heavy serpent armor. 2 E rank skill books manifest. Entangle and Strangle are now his to command. The wand serves as a temporary vessel for his wrath. The rest are mere trinkets unworthy of a sovereign. He will forge them into wealth at a later dawn. He summons his spiritual dominion panel. Level 5. Class Necromancer. Agility stands at 51, Spirit at 108. His health balances on a razor edge of 1/1. Mana surges at 6,480, over 6,480. Spell power radiates at 409. His soul bears the forbidden trait of promotion. His dark arsenal grows ever more terrifying. E rank Summon Skeleton. E rank Scorch. S rank Life Sharing binds his existence. SS rank Death Conscription seals his absolute authority. His legion capacity reaches 10/20. He clutches the humble wooden wand. The sacred death scripture hums at his side. Yet, the shadow of mortality looms. His remaining lifespan ticks away at less than 1 year. This crude branch cannot channel true devastation. A weapon worthy of a king must be claimed. Suddenly, an arcane resonance catches his eye. The death scripture has evolved. It is an artifact bound to his very soul. It cannot be dropped, shattered, or bartered. A relic of absolute permanence. Its newfound power is utterly staggering. It grants +75 spell power, +25 to all mortal attributes, +100% absolute devastation against the undead. His skeletal vanguard shares this monstrous empowerment. Deeper mysteries lie dormant until level 10. This tome dictates the very laws of reality. A sacred manuscript decipherable only by his eyes. Fulfill the darkest conditions, and ultimate power unlocks. The lost arts of the Death Sovereign await him. A cold smirk graces his face. He rallies the Bone Legion. The march of conquest continues. His current might shatters all former limits. The final ruler of this domain awaits its execution. He plunges fearlessly into the heart of the abyss. The dense fog violently parts. A colossal, silver-grade monstrosity blocks the path. 2 heavily reinforced elite executioners flank their sovereign. Hell difficulty truly manifests pure despair. Before him coils the Mist-Tree Python King, a level 8 silver-grade nightmare. It boasts a staggering 88,000 over 88,000 health points, 327 catastrophic attack power, 136 physical defense, 98 magic defense. Its arsenal of death is absolute. Strangle, Devour, Venom Spray, and Earthshaker. The Royal Guards hiss menacingly at its sides. These level 8 reinforced elites are heavily armed nightmares. Each wields 8,350 health points, 198 lethal attack power, 72 crushing physical defense, 60 impenetrable magic defense, and the deadly Strangle art. White Knight's gaze turns ice cold. Over 80,000 health points stand behind an elite vanguard, a fortress of flesh and scale. Can his undead horde shatter this unyielding wall? Hesitation is a sin on the battlefield. He chooses total, uncompromising war. The silent command is given. The legion surges forward like a wave of death. The skeletal vanguard clashes with the colossal beasts. Suddenly, the Python King unhinges its massive jaws. It swallows a skeleton warrior whole, a terrifying display of absolute dominance. The sheer lethality of the beast sends a chill down his spine. But raw power means nothing against the endless abyss. A sea of bone will drown even the mightiest king. More warriors rise from the shadowy depths. He commands a ruthless, coordinated assault. The slaughter grants a 50% level gap bonus, plus 180 experience points flood his soul per kill. The defensive line is completely shattered. He redirects the full fury of his legion onto the king. Iron strikes against diamond-hard scales. The futile assault only ignites the serpent's boundless wrath. White Knight gazes at his personal damage output. A profound sense of inadequacy washes over him. His magical strikes are pitiful against his legion's raw brutality. The monstrous king ignores the master. Its blazing, Hateful eyes lock onto the skeletal horde. Jaws snap shut, erasing another warrior from existence. The colossal serpentine body thrashes with seismic force. Bones shatter into 1,000 jagged splinters. A primal, overwhelming dread seizes the air. The mana in the atmosphere violently condenses. The beast is channeling a catastrophic technique. A torrent of violently toxic green mist erupts from its maw. White Knight's eyes widen in absolute shock. The monstrosity bypassed the Legion to strike the king. The corrosive tidal wave completely engulfs his vision. There is no escape. He braces his fragile mortal body for the devastating impact. The life-sharing skill surged through his veins. His vitality pool now eclipsed 100,000 points. Such pathetic damage meant absolutely nothing to him. Now, the true counterattack began. Azure hellfire erupted from his palms as he charged the beast. Endless waves of scorch spells rained down. All the while, his undead legion carved the monstrosity apart from every angle. The overwhelming barrage shattered the behemoth's absolute defense. The colossal titan finally crumbled to the earth. A divine chime echoed through his mind. He had slain the level 8 silver-grade boss, the Mystery Python King. A 50% experience boost surged into his soul. 14,400 experience points flooded his status window. A cold smirk formed on White Knight's lips. The slaughter had been utterly flawless. Suddenly, another cosmic decree flashed before his eyes. The system declared his absolute supremacy. He was the very first mortal in Novice Village number 9527 to solo crush a boss. The heavens rewarded his magnificent triumph. One basic life, soul stone, and a single gold coin materialized in his grasp. But the divine revelations were far from over. His legend grew even darker. He stood as the sole champion of Novice Village 9527, the first warrior to shatter a silver-grade terror entirely alone. This unmatched feat triggered a massive bounty. 5 more basic life soulstones and 5 gold coins fell into his inventory. Then, the system's voice thundered across all of Novice Village 9527. The heavens broadcasted White Knight's absolute victory. He alone had conquered a silver-grade nightmare. The system ordered the weak to witness his glory. Only by following his bloody path could they grasp such ultimate power. Shockwaves ripped through the player base. Minds shattered at the impossible news. Whispers of the enigmatic White Knight spread like wildfire. What kind of god-tier talent hid behind that terrifying name? They whispered of S-rank, or even double S-rank power. Mere mortals could never crush a silver-grade boss so early in the apocalypse. Envy twisted the hearts of many. One warrior roared in absolute fury at the insurmountable gap in their strength. Despair poisoned the masses. They cursed the Myriad Worlds for its cruel imbalance. While they bled just to survive against the weakest vermin, a god walked among them. This singular anomaly was already slaughtering titans. Another soul sighed into the bleak abyss. Transmigration had promised them greatness, yet fate had doomed them to be mere cannon fodder. Deep within the forest, an elite faction halted. A striking woman gasped at the grand revelation. Solo conquests triggered global glory. Had she known this secret, she would have commanded Maple Leaf to crush that black iron boss alone. Her comrade brushed off the mist glory. The future held countless battlefields, he claimed. The one who spoke with such calm arrogance was Maple Leaf 𝐔𝐃𝐃. Yet, a shadow crossed his eyes. He confessed the bitter truth. White Knight stood on a completely different level. A silver-grade monstrosity would have surely claimed his life. The woman known as Wealthworld narrowed her eyes. Her comrade already possessed an absolute S-rank talent. How could this phantom, this White Knight, still eclipse his monumental power? A terrifying thought chilled her blood. Did White Knight wield the legendary double S rank? Maple Leaf nodded with grim certainty. Breaking the tension, Awe, their ironclad tank, proposed a bold move. They must recruit this monster. Cotton Candy gripped her staff tight. Though small in stature, this mage understood the cataclysmic weight of a double S-rank talent. Would a dragon ever lower itself to run with wolves? A dangerous smile curved on Wealthworld's lips. Supreme confidence radiated from her gaze. She would cast the net. After all, no man breathing had ever resisted her deadly charm. Far away, a storm of notifications assaulted White Knight's interface. Desperate mortals begged for his favor. Annoyance flickered in his eyes before he wiped them all away. Kings do not walk with sheep. Silence fell once more. He pulled forth a basic life soul stone, a mystical relic pulsing with raw vitality. To consume it meant seizing 30 more days of mortal existence. But the heavens demanded a toll. Death would strip away 1/10 of that stolen time, a brutal minimum penalty of 3 agonizing days. His eyes widened. True immortality was actually within his grasp. He refused to settle for mere scraps. He unleashed his absolute power of promotion upon the stones. The radiant light faded, revealing an intermediate life soul stone. This artifact held the terrifying power to grant 120 days of life. The Dark Pact remained unbroken. A fatal fall would drain 1/10 of that celestial essence, a heavy 12-day sacrifice. Yet, a triumphant smirk crossed his face. The evolution was a total success. 6 of these legendary gems forged nearly 2 full years of survival. Devouring time itself sent a thrilling rush through his veins. A dark, addictive hunger awakened within him. He needed more souls. He needed more life. He cast aside the useless skill tomes like trash. His piercing gaze fell upon his battle spoils. Only the poison ring possessed any real value. It was time to unlock its true, lethal potential. The sublimation process erupted in brilliant light. A magnificent gold-grade venomous ring emerged from the glow. Forged with 100 out of 100 durability, it surged with 30 spell power, 10 agility, and 10 pure spirit points. A deadly curse slept within its band. His arcane strikes could now inject 150 points of lethal venom, striking once every 10 heartbeats. The sinister fusion of sorcery and plague delighted his dark soul. If the arcane blast failed to kill them, the rotting curse surely would. But as the battle smoke cleared, reality struck hard. Countless shattered bones littered the blood-stained earth. His undead soldiers had been decimated by a mere starting boss. A grim realization settled over his mind. The true nightmare was only beginning, and these brittle thralls were far too weak to conquer it. Wealth now lined his pockets. It was time to push his necromancy beyond mortal limits. He summoned the evolution interface. The choices materialized. Promote Tier 1, Sublimate Tier 2, or Unleash Cataclysm Tier 3. His decision cut through the silence like a blade. He locked onto Sublimate. The system demanded a heavy toll. 5 gold coins to erase the past and forge a devastating new reality. The agonizing price bit into his wealth. Yet, true conquerors do not fear temporary poverty. Mountains of gold awaited him in the future. He commanded the evolution to commence. The heavens roared as the arcane ritual completed. His pathetic F-rank ability shattered into cosmic dust. Rising from its ashes was a terrifying D-rank power. The summoned skeleton soldier skill had awakened. This D-rank level 6 domain defied the laws of death. No longer tied to mindless grunts, he could now birth armored skeleton warriors or lethal skeleton archers from the abyss. 3 fleeting seconds to cast, 30 seconds to recharge, a toll of 200 mana points per summon. Their destructive potential scaled infinitely with his own spirit. A cruel smile formed. The snipers of the underworld were exactly what he needed. The exorbitant cost of 5 gold coins now felt like absolute robbery in his favor. A surge of raw mana left his body. It was time to test his new instruments of death. The monstrous archer materialized from the shadows. 637 points in strength, constitution, and deadly agility. It boasted 6,370 health points and an ironclad 319 defense. It even held the lethal double-shot technique. At rank E level 6, it became an executioner. 2 phantom arrows would pierce the air in the blink of an eye, each strike delivering 90% physical devastation, ready to unleash every 30 seconds. Evolving into a pure marksman had supercharged its reflexes. But the warrior was an entirely different beast. It mirrored the beastly core stats, yet it wielded a crushing 956 attack power alongside its impenetrable armor. It grasped the devastating heavy strike technique. At rank E level 6, it became a harbinger of doom, a colossal swing dealing 175% catastrophic damage, primed to shatter bone every 30 seconds. Forged as a vanguard, its raw brute force had skyrocketed. He gazed upon his dark battalion with terrifying pride. Finally, his undead legion wielded power worthy of a king. A cold, triumphant aura rolled off him. He commanded his silent executioners to march. The skeletal shadows vanished into the darkened woods, hunting for blood. The prey did not take long to surface. An elite rank level 8 goblin bared its fangs. A full 2,800 health points of pure savagery, packing 96 attack power, 58 physical defense, 45 magic defense, and a vicious projectile technique called throw. The slaughter was about to resume. A single command shattered the silence. The archers unleashed their fury upon a solitary prey. Arrows pierced the goblin's skull with lethal precision. The beast collapsed. Death was instantaneous. A surge of power flowed into White Knight. A 50% blessing of experience washed over him, granting 60 absolute points. His slaughter had evolved. His progression was now terrifyingly swift. This weak hunting ground no longer sufficed. His ambition hungered for greater prey. He had to ascend to a more perilous domain. Far from the bloodshed, the safe zone buzzed with desperation. Weaklings gathered in fragile alliances. Suddenly, an imposing figure stepped from the shadows. He declared his grand design. The Hegemony Guild was about to be born. He offered them a place in his conquering army to dominate the Myriad Worlds. But his arrogance struck a nerve. The crowd bristled with hostility. A nameless novice demanding utter submission? It was an insult to their pride. Yet, the stranger stood unfazed. A cold smirk graced his lips. He revealed his trump card. An S-rank talent. Born leader. The laws of the system bowed to his will. The crushing cost of creation vanished. A guild could be forged from nothing. The rewards were astronomical. A 20% surge in combat experience. A 20% blessing on the spoils of war. A 20% amplification of sheer destructive power. And this was merely the beginning. As their empire expanded, their dominance would multiply. The hostility in the crowd melted into pure greed. The temptation was absolute. It was a pathway to godhood. Desperate voices immediately cried out, begging to pledge their loyalty. The aspiring king raised a hand, demanding order. They would be judged one by one. Suddenly the heavens roared. A golden decree materialized across the entire server, a supreme proclamation from Wealthy World. Her target? White Knight. The message carried the weight of an imperial summons. She demanded an immediate audience. A pact of destiny needed to be forged. Jealousy erupted like a volcano among the masses. Bitter curses filled the air. Warriors had spilled oceans of blood, slaughtering endless beasts. Yet, their pockets held less than 100 pathetic copper coins. But this unseen empress? She casually burned 10 gold coins for a fleeting whisper. The disparity was suffocating. Whispers of awe and terror spread. Who possessed such monstrous wealth? 10 gold coins was an unfathomable fortune. It was a king's ransom squandered on mere words. Shockwaves of disbelief ripped through the starting grounds. Was this absolute financial dominance real? The ambitious guildmaster narrowed his eyes. His mind raced with terrifying calculations. How had she conquered the economy so swiftly? More importantly, who was the recipient? White Knight. The very title radiated an unyielding aura. The guildmaster hungered to measure this warrior's might. Deep within the blood-soaked forest, White Knight gazed at the golden skies. 10 gold coins reduced to ash just to speak his name. Her financial power was a devastating weapon. Intrigued by her limitless treasury, he accepted the summons. The connection was established. The Golden Empress struck without hesitation. She demanded his blade for her vanguard. In return, total martial supremacy, limitless artifacts, ultimate skill tomes, and a staggering tribute of 100 gold coins, paid instantly. 100 gold coins at the dawn of the apocalypse. It was an apocalyptic fortune. White Knight's eyes narrowed coldly. Humanity had barely taken its first steps. How had she amassed a treasury worthy of the gods? Suspicion laced his words. He demanded proof of her impossible claims. Her response was chillingly arrogant. Wealth was a mere illusion to her. If he pledged his sword to her banner, rivers of gold would forever flow at his feet. To crush his remaining doubts, she unveiled her supreme secret. A miracle etched into her very soul. A triple S rank exclusive authority. The god of wealth. This divine law dictated 3 absolute rules. First, the world tree of fortune. Once a day, the heavens rained down anywhere from 1 to 999 gold coins. A daily harvest that defied logic, hiding legendary artifacts within its golden leaves. Second, the eternal tide of riches. Her treasury was a living entity. Every single day, her vast fortune expanded by an unstoppable 1%. Third, the iron vault of the abyss. Even death could not claim her treasures. Not a single coin nor artifact could be stripped from her corpse. Her wealth was eternal. The revelation struck like thunder. White Knight stared at the impossible text. This divine authority defied the very heavens. She was a walking treasury, a sovereign who could conquer the world with a snap of her fingers. Yet, the shadows of doubt crept in. Alliances were a fatal weakness. Marching alongside others meant exposing his own catastrophic secrets to the light. The temptation was rejected. The path of the lone wolf offered true survival. He severed the negotiation with a cold verdict. His blade would dance in solitude. The Golden Empress gritted her teeth. A mere warrior dared to reject her imperial decree? Fury flickered in her eyes. Maple Leaf Xiao stepped forward, questioning the silence. With venom in her voice, she confirmed the worst. The lone wolf had bared his fangs and walked away. Owe scoffed at the insult. He demanded they abandon the arrogant fool and carve their own path of slaughter. But Cotton Candy shattered his delusions. Without peerless armor and weapons, their conquest would become an agonizing crawl through hell. Suddenly, the system chimed again. A new transmission from the rogue anomaly. White Knight was not entirely gone. He offered a dark bargain. She demanded the terms of this pact. His words carried the weight of a conquering warlord. He sat upon a mountain of surplus armaments and forbidden tomes, tools of destruction that her fragile vanguard desperately craved. And he was ready to play merchant. Her eyes burned with absolute financial dominance. Name the price. She intended to devour his entire inventory. White Knight's response was chilling. The true cost of his arsenal would shatter her mortal comprehension. He ordered her to stand by. His current slaughter was far from finished. The Golden Empress yielded to his command. She would await his victorious return. She turned to her vanguard, a wicked smile forming. Godly armaments were descending upon them. Away's blood boiled with savage joy. With supreme weapons in hand, their massacre would become unstoppable. A monstrous roar shattered the forest. A level 5 bronze-grade tyrant emerged. The Wild Boar Leader, a behemoth boasting 23,800 over 23,800 hit points. Its massive frame concealed 205 attack power, alongside 81 physical and 62 magical defense. A beast armed with devastating skills like Tear, Barbaric Charge, and Wild Trample. The Golden Empress locked eyes with her champion. Could he slaughter this titan alone? A fearless grin spread across his face. This beast was already dead. She immediately issued absolute orders. Every single vitality elixir was surrendered to his grasp. Then, she ruthlessly severed his connection to the vanguard. Away became the shield of the perimeter. His sole mission was absolute lockdown. No outsider would disrupt this duel of fates. Their ambition was singular: seize the ultimate glory of a world announcement. The command to strike was given. He dashed forward like a phantom. The tyrant retaliated with catastrophic force, cleaving away 986 life points, but the warrior vanished into its blind spot. His blade sang a lethal melody. The behemoth whipped its spiked spine in a desperate counter. The impact was deafening. He spat blood, acknowledging its terrifying might. Yet, a mocking laugh escaped his lips. The beast was hopelessly slow. The Golden Empress watched with cold calculation. Her champion possessed a veteran's instinct, forged in endless battles. Conquering this monstrosity would be an absolute certainty. Across the realm, a true nightmare descended. White Knight stood victorious over a level 8 silver-grade horror, the Goblin Leader. A 50% blessing activated. 14,400 experience points flooded his soul. Commanding his endless legion of undead servants was a masterstroke of absolute domination. He was a walking calamity. The cursed fog parted before his army. He marched through the abyssal woods unchallenged. The heavens chimed in eternal reverence. He had ascended to level 6. A surge of absolute power awakened within. 1 point graced every mortal attribute, alongside 15 points of limitless potential. Yet, the conqueror merely sighed. Harvesting the mountain of spoils was becoming a tedious chore. His fingers brushed against a formidable relic. The reinforced bone shield, a mighty artifact for the weak. But with his godlike life diversion authority, this pitiful shield was utterly worthless. The mist cloak offered unmatched stealth. Yet, its wretched appearance disgusted him. It was a level 5 artifact. Gold grade. It boasted 100 over 100 durability. It granted 28 physical defense and 20 magic defense. Constitution and spirit both swelled by 10. He draped the dark fabric over his shoulders. His immense aura instantly vanished into the shadows. The creatures of the dark would no longer hunt him blindly. But another treasure demanded his gaze. A glorious emblem pulsed with dormant power. A level 5 gold-grade relic. Its durability stood perfect at 100 over 100. Vitality surged through his veins, adding 200 health points. His magical reserves exploded by 400. His spell critical chance sharpened by a deadly 5%. Every devastating strike would awaken a fierce blessing. His spirit would erupt by 20 points for 10 agonizing seconds. The power would not multiply. Yet, he bound it to his soul without hesitation. A sudden crack of bone shattered the silence. A battered skeleton staggered into view. Its life force bled rapidly into the dirt. He narrowed his eyes. How had this broken minion unlocked a sovereign's domain? The voice of the world rang out. An apocalyptic warning flashed before his eyes. The undead legion had awakened an ancient terror. A hidden plot tore through the fabric of the realm. The Goblin King remembered its darkest nightmares. Absolute madness consumed the sovereign. Boiling rage corrupted its blood. Every single attribute violently skyrocketed by 50%. The mist forest slammed shut. An impenetrable barrier of dark magic sealed the exit. Only death could open the gate. He had exactly 2 minutes to slaughter the Goblin King. Failure meant eternal oblivion. White Knight raised his hands. More undead warriors tore themselves from the abyss. The earth trembled violently. The Goblin King unleashed a deafening roar. A mortal had dared to defile its sacred ground. It vowed an absolute massacre. Every rotten bone would be ground to dust. King 𝐔𝐍𝐃𝐃 burned with infernal fury. His terrifying wrath pushed his power beyond mortal limits. Every single attribute swelled by 50%. A level 8 gold-grade monstrosity stood before him. Its vitality loomed at 286,218, over 327,000. Its strikes carried 843 destruction. It boasted 312 physical defense and 270 magical resistance. The beast commanded the very elements: thunder strike, trample, heroic leap, summoning rituals and devastating berserk modes. Centuries of suppressed agony had finally shattered 𝐔𝐍𝐃𝐃's sanity. The heavenly voice delivered a chilling curse. Death would offer no escape. Even if White Knight resurrected, 𝐔𝐍𝐃 would hunt his soul to the ends of the earth. 2 minutes. The time limit was suffocating. Over 300,000 health points stood in his way. The mountain of vitality was terrifying. But the necromancer held a deadly secret. No king could survive an infinite tide of death. His undead legion would swallow the beast whole. The sovereign charged blindly into the fray. It crashed furiously into the sea of rotting bone. Venom dripped from its fangs. The stench of decay sickened the proud monarch. White Knight watched with cold calculation. The sheer devastation of the beast was undeniable. Any ordinary level 5 mortal would be vaporized. But this monster had crossed the wrong path. The Goblin King snapped its head back. A low growl vibrated through the air. The puny human had dared to orchestrate a lethal ambush. From the shadows, a bone sniper released absolute hell. Relentless arrows pierced the tyrant's thick hide. The sovereign snapped. Its bloodshot eyes locked onto the relentless archer. A cold smile touched the necromancer's lips. The trap had sprung flawlessly. The furious monarch howled a demonic chant. Portals ripped open. It commanded its kin to slaughter the undead filth for the glory of the crown. A legion of savage goblins erupted from the dimensional rifts. Crimson madness infected their eyes. The horrific frenzy amplified every attribute by 50%. Every single foot soldier was an absolute nightmare. Their monstrous vitality crested at 13,500 over 13,500 health points. 279 attack power, 105 physical defense, 93 magic defense. They wielded the devastating, powerful strike. The necromancer's breath caught in his throat. The battlefield had just shifted into a realm of extreme peril. The stakes multiplied tenfold. The Goblin King shifted its terrifying gaze. Murderous intent locked onto the death mage. This human had drenched the mist forest in goblin blood. Vengeance demanded his immediate execution. Escape was no longer an option. A thunderous roar commanded the savage horde to eradicate the necromancer and his unholy army. The royal mace descended like a falling meteor. The earth violently shattered. A cataclysmic shockwave tore through the terrain. White Knight blurred into the shadows. He evaded the annihilation by a mere hair. The sheer wind pressure ripped at his flesh. He gritted his teeth against the agonizing pain. But his life force was bound to his undead legion. The fatal blow dissolved across a sea of skeletal bodies. He cracked open the gates of the underworld once more. A fresh tide of nightmares emerged. He directed their killing intent toward the goblin vanguard. Skeletal blades clashed against green flesh. Blood sprayed as the lesser warriors fell. He raised a commanding hand. A merciless storm of bone arrows blackened the sky. The deadly rain shredded the advancing horde. The Goblin King witnessed the slaughter of its kin. Its pride refused to break. It unleashed a soul-shattering howl. It would never bow down to the dark again. The sovereign abandoned all reason. King 𝐔𝐍𝐃𝐃 descended into ultimate berserk fury. Destructive power surged by 50%. Striking speed exploded by 50%, but its ironclad defenses plummeted by 50%. White Knight stared down the reckless beast, a pathetic display. The monarch had just signed its own death warrant. The heavens parted with a grand proclamation. The world stood still. Maple Leaf Xiao had achieved the impossible. The first mortal to single-handedly slaughter a bronze-grade terror. The global glory had been snatched away. But the necromancer remained completely unfazed. A petty title meant nothing. True absolute power lay within his grasp. He refused to lose his focus. He unleashed the ultimate command. Every single skeletal soldier threw themselves into the meat grinder. An ocean of blades overwhelmed the sovereign. The mighty Goblin King finally crashed into the blood-soaked earth. The divine voice erupted with earth-shattering news. The level 8 gold-grade catastrophe had been executed. A 50% experience blessing activated. 43,200 experience points flooded his soul. A golden pillar of light enveloped him. Level 7 achieved. Every core attribute gained a permanent spark of power. 1 divine skill point materialized. 15 raw attribute points fueled his ascension. Novice village number 9,527 had its first true legend, the first solitary conqueror of a gold-grade boss. The heavens showered him in glorious spoils. 12 basic life soul stones materialized in his palm. 12 gleaming gold coins clinked into his inventory. His piercing gaze swept the devastated battlefield. But the legendary beast left no earthly remains behind, a strange mystery. Meanwhile, realms away, a heavily armored conqueror grasped a supreme artifact, a divine treasure capable of extending mortal life itself. His loyal sycophants bowed in absolute reverence. They showered him in endless praise. They hailed him as the undisputed god of Novice Village, number 9,527. The sky fractured with the sudden world broadcast. Maple Leaf Xiao's name burned across the horizon, the first lone executioner of a bronze-grade nightmare. The armored conqueror's followers sneered in disgust. They dismissed the achievement as pure blind luck. The warlord's eyes flashed with lethal pride. He swore to hunt down a gold-grade catastrophe. He would show the world the meaning of true supremacy, but the heavens instantly crushed his arrogance. A second, the absolute first solitary slayer of a gold-grade monstrosity. The armored warlord froze in absolute shock. A dark frown twisted his face. Had this shadow awakened an impossible triple S-ranked talent? Deep within the ancient woods, Maple Leaf Xiao trembled. This mysterious white knight was an entity of pure dread. Wealthy World placed a steady hand on his companion. Fear was useless now. The Myriad Worlds epoch had barely opened its bloody curtains. Destiny was still unwritten. The gap could still be closed. Maple Leaf Xiao ignited his fighting spirit. He gripped his weapon tightly. The time for hesitation was over. He commanded his vanguard to march forward. The first abyssal dungeon awaited their conquest. Shift to White Knight. The system's cold voice echoed. He had slaughtered Goblin King Reggie. The kill took less than 2 minutes. A hidden plot awakened. Reggie's nightmare had begun. The Mist Forest dungeon mutated instantly. Disaster grade, a realm far beyond hell difficulty. Suddenly, thick, choking fog erupted from the dead king's jaws. White Knight narrowed his eyes. The atmosphere grew suffocating. Phantom visions materialized in the fog. He witnessed the goblin's peaceful past, but tranquility quickly turned to tragedy. Chains bound them in the dark. Scorching flames consumed their flesh. Amidst the agonizing screams, one of his own summoned skeletons appeared in the illusion. The truth struck like lightning. His undead minion was once a living goblin, but there was no time to think. The fallen king's corpse erupted with blinding light. Flesh withered, and bone merged. Skeleton King Reggie was born. Madness consumed the undead ruler. All its attributes surged by 50%. A level 10 monstrosity stood before him. A true dark gold-grade boss. Its vitality was absolutely terrifying. 1,800,000. Over 1,800,000 health points. 4,215 attack power. 780 physical defense. And 675 magic defense. Its lethal arsenal was overwhelming. It commanded skeleton warriors, archers, and mages. It possessed the aura of the dead and thunder heavy strike. Trample of the dead, leap of the dead, berserk, and death aura surround. The system revealed a chilling lore. This beast was the masterpiece of ancient necromancers. Even in death, Reggie realized the cruel truth. He could never escape his undead destiny. The fallen king roared into the void. He summoned his loyal warriors once more. Vengeful souls tore free from their vessels. They forged themselves into a massive, cursed blade. White Knight gritted his teeth. Such an absolute nightmare had no place in a novice village. The giant skeleton raised its weapon. Apocalyptic lightning split the heavens. The strike tore the earth apart. Elite undead clawed their way out. First came a level 10 skeleton warrior, 60,000 health points, 780 attack power, 264 physical defense, and 216 magic defense. Armed with a level 10 heavy strike, the aura of the dead pushed the heroic warrior further. All attributes skyrocketed by 20%. Next rose a level 10 skeleton mage, 24,000 health points, 840 spell power, 100 physical defense, and 240 magic defense. It wielded a devastating level 10 fireball. The deathly aura bathed the caster, raising every attribute by another 20%. Finally, a level 10 skeleton archer took its stance. 36,000 health points, 624 attack power, 160 physical defense, and 120 magic defense. Its bow glowed with a level 10 double shot. The dark aura fueled its precision, blessing it with a 20% attribute surge. Just 6 of these elite summons rivaled his entire army of 20. The Skeleton King's ambition was terrifyingly clear. He wanted White Knight to join his eternal undead legion. Suffocating pressure crushed down on White Knight. The enemy's attack power was absolute despair. For a split second, victory seemed utterly impossible. Then, the system flashed blood red. Reggie's nightmare was fully locked in. Novice village protection was now disabled. Death meant losing 10% of his actual lifespan, a minimum penalty of 10 human years. His heart completely skipped a beat. Even consuming every life soul stone he owned, it wouldn't cover a single death penalty. A chilling realization washed over him. His legend in the Myriad Worlds could end today, buried in this nameless grave. Skeleton King Reggie did not wait. A cataclysmic thunder-heavy strike shattered the ground. Several allied minions dissolved into dust instantly. The shockwave violently threw White Knight back. Tasting blood, he gritted his teeth. He commanded his archers to focus fire on the undead vanguard. But reality was incredibly harsh. His depleted mana could only sustain 20 skeletal warriors. 20 would never be enough. The enemy's armor was an impenetrable fortress. He needed a higher tier of power immediately. Safety was no longer an option. It was time to gamble with his life. He devoured the life soul stones. He had to test the terrifying cost of a cataclysm promotion. Pure energy flooded his mortal body. Several intermediate stones shattered within him. His accumulated lifespan was pushed to 6 years. The system delivered its heavy ultimatum. Upgrading to C rank would unlock 3 paths: the warrior, the archer, or the mage. Destiny demanded a choice. His eyes burned with absolute resolve. He selected the skeleton warrior path. In this slaughterhouse, their massive vitality was his only shield. 5 years of his lifespan instantly vanished. But the sacrifice bore majestic fruit. His pathetic F-rank spell shattered its limits. The C-rank skill, Summon Skeleton Warrior, awakened. C-rank power surged through his veins. Level 8. A 3-second cast time and a 30-second cooldown. It demanded 300 mana, but the warrior's stats now scaled purely with his spirit attribute. The mutation effect defied all logic. Maximum health exploded by 500%. Attack power doubled to 100%. This wasn't just a simple C-rank buff. It was a reality-breaking power spike. White Knight almost laughed at the sheer absurdity. Had the system completely lost its mind? He raised his hands toward the battlefield. A new legion of darkness answered his call. To match the Skeleton King's might. 930 strength, constitution, and agility. 69,750 health points. 3,720 attack power, and 930 physical defense. Their heavy blades hummed with level 8 heavy strike, ready to inflict 185% physical devastation, waiting only 30 seconds between each apocalyptic swing. The glorious mutation stacked even higher. A 500% health explosion, a 100% attack power domination. Every single attribute broke past mortal limits. His new undead army roared with savage fury. They charged fearlessly at Skeleton King. Reggie, the king, ordered his royal guard to hold the front line. But White Knight's mutated warriors carved through them. Steady, devastating damage chipped away at the boss. And White Knight mercilessly summoned even more troops. Cornered and desperate, The giant boss unleashed a terrifying roar. Berserk state activated. Attack power and speed skyrocketed by 50%. But in its blind rage, both its defenses plummeted by 50%. A cold, ruthless smirk crept onto White Knight's face. The beast had exposed its own throat. In his eyes, this foolish king had just dug its own grave. "End him," he roared over the chaos. Every single minion unleashed their ultimate strikes. The king's massive health bar melted like snow in a furnace. A golden system notification finally shattered the silence. The monstrous king was dead. A massive 50% experience bonus flooded his system. 270,000 experience points. He instantly broke through to level 8, gaining +1 to all core attributes, 1 precious skill point, and 15 free attribute points. But the golden light surrounding him did not fade. With 270,000 experience points, the Ascension was far from over. The system chimed again with absolute authority. Level 9 achieved. Then came the world-shaking announcement. He was the first player in Novice Village 9527 to solo butcher a dark gold grade boss. The system showered him with glory. 40 intermediate life soul stones, 60 gleaming gold coins. His monumental triumph echoed across the entire village. Another system chime shattered the silence. A grand congratulation for claiming the Mist Forest's first clear in Novice Village 9527. 5 random Tier 1 attribute gems and 5 more gold coins materialized before him. This round of cataclysmic upgrades exacted a heavy toll. He had sacrificed over 13 years of his own lifespan. Yet, the heavenly rewards cascaded without end. Conquering the Helter Tier Mist Forest triggered another bounty, 20 intermediate life soul stones. 20 gold coins added to his growing treasury. White Knight scowled. He had dominated a disaster-level calamity, not mere hell difficulty. Meanwhile, outside the Mist Forest, a heavily armored warrior continued his desperate recruitment. Bystanders murmured, eager to join his ranks. But the atmosphere shifted instantly. A rival squad marched from the shadows of the forest, clad in magnificent, fully forged armor. Their leader was Wealthy World. Her staggering presence demanded respect. Everyone knew her majestic gear was forged from pure financial dominance. Onlookers gasped at the sheer display of wealth. The armored recruiter stepped forward. He acknowledged her squad's rising reputation. Her team offered a humble response, praising the mighty Guildmaster Hongu. The armored giant threw his head back and unleashed a booming, arrogant laugh. Sensing an opportunity, Hongu proposed a high-stakes gamble. Wealthy World narrowed her eyes. She demanded to know the terms. A race for glory. Hongu challenged her for the Mist Forest's first clear. Ice in her veins, Wealthy World asked the price of defeat. Hongu smirked. His overwhelming talent and her boundless wealth could rule this world. If he claimed victory, her entire squad would kneel and join his hegemony guild. Unfazed, she demanded her own prize. Hongu made a grand vow. The mighty hegemony guild would fulfill a single request with their absolute, undivided power. Wealthy World sneered at the offer. A single favor was an insult to her pride. She demanded 3 absolute vows of servitude. Tension hung in the air before the blood pact was sealed. Then, the sky fractured. A golden system announcement blasted across the heavens. White Knight had just stolen the first clear of the Mist Forest. Dead silence swallowed the crowd. Guildmaster Hongu's arrogant smile twisted into pure, murderous rage. This phantom player named White Knight had humiliated them both. Swallowing his fury, Hongu proposed a new path. They would conquer hard mode instead. But the heavens roared again. Golden texts bombarded the sky without mercy. First strike. White Knight had crushed the hell difficulty of the Mist Forest. Second strike. He stood alone as the first mortal to slaughter a dark gold grade boss. Third strike. A monumental announcement shook the entire Blue Star Zone. The Divine Dragon Empire celebrated their champion. White Knight was the first soul to solo conquer a disaster-level abyss. Guildmaster Hongu roared in helpless disbelief. The sheer impossibility shattered his pride. Shrouded in shame, his team vanished into the portal. Cotton Candy turned to Wealthy World, questioning their next move. The rich heiress remained unfazed. With the ultimate glory stolen, there was no point in rushing blindly into the dark. She chose to wait in the shadows. Meanwhile, in the Divine Dragon Empire's Novice Village 8888, deep within the hellish Mist Forest, a raven-haired warrior danced a deadly waltz with the Goblin King. Blade met beast in a flurry of sparks. He parried every brutal strike with terrifying calm. This masterful swordsman was 3-foot sword edge. The world announcements echoed in his ears. His eyes gleamed with intense curiosity. What monstrous talent had this white knight awakened? He himself had been locked in this grueling battle for hours, yet the beast still drew breath. Far away, in Novice Village 9526, a blonde-haired man squinted at the sky, murmuring that the name White Knight carried a haunting familiarity. The alluring woman clinging to his arm tilted her head. Her name was Ruan. He smirked, asking if this phantom was one of her past admirers. Her eyes flashed with sudden defiance. Xiao pulled her into a tight, possessive embrace, whispering sweet venom to calm her nerves. He reminded her of the brutal truth. Following Mubai in the past had granted her years of unparalleled luxury. Without the catastrophic arrival of Myriad Worlds, he would be standing at the very pinnacle of humanity. Ruan trembled. That cursed name, White Knight, unlocked a sealed memory. A ghost from her past materialized in her mind. Xiao's grip tightened as he demanded a name. Her voice shook as she breathed out the truth. It was Su Mubai. Xiao scoffed, dismissing the terrifying thought. Su Mubai was a rotting corpse. After all, Xiao had personally ripped out his life support. There was no shortage of fools calling themselves White Knight. He brushed off the creeping dread as a mere glitch of fate. A wicked grin split his face. If the dead had truly returned, their path to power was clear. Mubai's fatal weakness had always been Ruan. One seductive smile, and the fool would be enslaved once more. A crimson flush warmed her cheeks, but behind her beautiful mask hid absolute vanity. She wielded her charm like a deadly weapon, utterly indifferent to the true identity of White Knight. The heavens rejoiced once more. White Knight stood victorious as the supreme champion of the Blue Star Zone, the first to conquer a disaster-level apocalypse alone. His spoils defied imagination. An S-rank skill book and one piece of epic-tier mythical gear. The disaster-level abyss had surrendered its greatest treasures. His power surged to terrifying heights. With just one drop of blood, he could manifest an entire ocean of vitality. With a mere thought, he commanded his inventory. The siphon skill awakened, a dark art that drained the very essence of death from fallen corpses. A single cast could consume 5 souls at once. The cooldown was 30 seconds. This monstrous power cost him absolutely nothing. Its suffocating reach spanned 50 meters. Currently, his stored death energy rested at 0 out of 80. The companion skill, Feedback, held terrifying utility. It could instantly surge his health, flood his mana, or inject raw power into his loyal summons. 30 seconds of cooldown. It demanded between 1 and 80 points of harvested death energy. One spark of death granted 100 points of life or mana, or it could unleash a 0.5% attribute boost for 60 seconds. The era of mana exhaustion was officially dead. The path of Ascension laid bare before him. He seized the free promotion without hesitation. The system roared its approval, elevating the Death Siphon Feedback Tome to Tier 1. He accepted the pact. The forbidden knowledge flooded his mind, permanently branding the Death Siphon Feedback into his soul. He turned his dark gaze upon the fallen. A monstrous 320 points of death energy ripped from the corpse of Skeleton King, Ragi. But the system flashed red. His vessel of death was already overflowing. His vessel had reached its absolute limit. To devour more power, he first had to digest the overwhelming surge. The sheer volume of energy defied all reason. The fallen monarch was a creature of the abyss. Therefore, its essence brimmed with pure, concentrated death. Amidst the dark energy, a magnificent prize manifested the Whisperer of the Dead Robe. This sublime armor evolved alongside its master. Its power awakened at level 10, reaching absolute perfection at level 60. Every 5 levels, its dark fabric would undergo a profound metamorphosis. A breathtaking aura radiated from the cloth. It was an epic artifact. He realized he might be holding the very first epic armament in the entire Blue Star realm. Yet, its true potential remained locked behind a costly appraisal. For now, he secured the priceless treasure. Suddenly, a sharp realization struck him. He turned his gaze back to the shattered bones of Skeleton King Reggie. Hidden treasures still lingered within the majestic ruins. He prepared to plunder the remains and offer them to wealthy world. Slaying the sovereign twice demanded a king's ransom. The heavens answered his silent demand. A blinding explosion of legendary spoils erupted into the physical world. Wealth reigned upon the scorched earth. 10 gold coins and 38 silver coins shimmered in the gloom, a gem granting 10 attribute points, a gem adding 3 to critical strikes, and 5 radiant gold artifacts materialized. The dark gold treasures practically pulsed with ominous power. He claimed the necklace of the dead, the boots of the shadow, heavy bone armor, and a giant bone sword. Furthermore, 3 C-rank forbidden scrolls appeared: Summon Skeleton Champion, Summon Skeleton Archer, and Summon Skeleton Mage. The Cosmic Vault also yielded 2 devastating B-rank combat manuals: the Aura of the Dead and the earth-shattering Thunder Heavy Strike. Dark gold remnants of the fallen king littered the ground. He gathered 10 Death Energy Bones, 10 Soul Remnants, and Hale's Crystal Ball. The 3 summoning scrolls resonated within his inventory. He already possessed the Champion, Archer, and Mage variations. The absolute voice of the system echoed in his mind. It offered a miraculous fusion combining all 3 into the Summon Advanced Skeleton Art. This transcendent method of arcane synthesis was completely unheard of. He commanded the fusion without a shred of hesitation. The newly forged Summon Advanced Skeleton was a C-rank, level 1 miracle. With a single thought, he could call forth a champion, archer, or mage to slaughter his foes. The cast time required a mere 3 seconds. The cooldown spanned 30 seconds, demanding 300 mana per use. Yet, its hidden traits harbored apocalyptic potential. The first awakening amplified the champion's vitality by 500%. Its raw destructive power doubled. The second and third supreme traits remained bound in chains. Those sealed powers undoubtedly belonged to the archer and the mage. He would need to shatter the skill's limits once more to unleash them. Instantly, the system demanded he choose a path of ascension. The mundane path of regular promotion demanded no sacrifice. However, the A-rank sublimation offered something far greater. To birth the Summon Elite Skeleton required 10,000 gold coins. Meanwhile, the S-rank Cataclysm Evolution Summon Skeleton Legion demanded 1,000 years of mortal lifespan. White Knight embraced the immediate ascension. A surge of pure energy elevated his C-rank skill directly to B-rank, level 1. An eerie sapphire orb manifested in the void. The system offered the epic trial known as Hale's Legacy. It carried an extreme difficulty warning, demanding absolute certainty before acceptance. Embracing the trial would fracture the seal upon Hale's crystal ball. The artifact would bind to his soul as temporary armament. Rejection meant the orb would shatter reality itself. It would vanish into the cosmos, seeking a braver master. This was the true, terrifying harvest of the hidden destiny line. Dangerous curiosity gripped his mind. Could a quest artifact undergo promotion? He forced his power into the orb, and the system presented the legendary trial Dylan's Sorrow. This trial defied mortal comprehension. Its difficulty shattered all known boundaries. The mechanical voice practically begged him to turn back. Acceptance would crack the supreme seal of Dylan's crystal ball. Rejection would send the legendary relic tearing through the fabric of space, lost forever. He seized the legendary fate without a second thought. But his power was far too weak. The absolute mandate required him to reach level 30 within 1 month to survive the first phase. Failure meant the permanent erasure of the relic. Only complete unsealing would reveal the weapon's true, divine name. The artifact started at level 0, boasting a terrifying limit of level 200. This legendary treasure possessed a flawless durability of 1,000 over 1,000. Even suppressed, its raw power was monstrous. It granted 50 spell power, 20 to all attributes, 1,000 health, and 2,000 mana. Its passive dominion was utterly devastating. The first awakened law increased spell critical rate by 30%. It also amplified critical damage by 50%. The second and third absolute laws remained dormant within the crystalline depths. Those forbidden powers would manifest only during the first phase of the trial. White Knight smiled coldly at the overwhelming critical damage enhancement. This apocalyptic harvest had shattered all logic and reason. His spatial ring overflowing with legendary spoils, he marched toward the rendezvous with Wealthy World. Outside the swirling dungeon vortex, tension suffocated the air. Cotton Candy nervously asked Wealthy World about their delay. The sun bled across the horizon, and Hegemony's forces had breached the gates long ago. Wealthy World remained as still as a mountain, commanding absolute patience. Suddenly, the oppressive aura of White Knight emerged from the shadows. She stepped forward to meet the conqueror. White Knight's eyes narrowed, intrigued by their unwavering loyalty. She immediately demanded the spoils of war. She subtly suggested relocating to escape the prying eyes of the weak. He dismissed her caution with a commanding wave. The transaction would happen here and now. He summoned his monstrous undead guard, instantly suffocating the nearby crowd with pure terror. Wealthy World felt a chill race down her spine. His oppressive might was entirely unfathomable. She silently concluded that he possessed a mythical SSS rank talent. White Knight scoffed, declaring her own innate abilities to be the true prize. He stared her down with an intense gaze. He challenged her vast wealth, questioning if she could truly swallow this monolithic harvest. Her eyes burned with unshakable financial supremacy. She guaranteed her absolute purchasing power. He unleashed the spoils, and the sheer magnitude paralyzed everyone in sight. Cotton Candy trembled with absolute euphoria. The mountain of D-rank combat manuals contained forgotten, mythical arts. Awe stared, utterly captivated by the apocalyptic arsenal of weapons. Wealthy World masked her shock with an iron facade. She ordered the conqueror to name his price for the entire domain of loot. His voice cut through the silence like a blade. 5 silver for black iron, 20 silver for bronze, and 20 gold for D-rank manuals. Without a flinch, she manifested the colossal fortune and tossed it at his feet. He absorbed the massive influx of wealth. Her greed remained unsatisfied as she demanded the legendary treasures. A cold, arrogant smirk crept across his face as he confirmed their existence. He unleashed the true apocalyptic harvest. Gold-grade armaments, C-rank scrolls, and god-tier artifacts crashed onto the earth. As their minds completely shattered, he coldly whispered that her fortune might finally run dry. She confessed their pockets were completely empty. He remained unmoved. He would hand over the prize now, but the debt must be settled by tomorrow's dawn. Betrayal was impossible. A binding system contract sealed their fate. There would be absolutely no escape from this debt. His blunt nature shattered all pleasantries. She discarded her polite facade instantly. With narrowed eyes, she demanded the final price. The lesser items held no weight. But the legendary tome in his grasp? That alone demanded 500 gold coins. It was the Book of Resurrection, a rank C active skill, unbound by any mortal level requirements. A miraculous divine power. It could rip a fallen comrade from the clutches of death outside of battle. The bitter penalty of defeat? Slashed by a staggering 50%. The rules of the magic were absolute: a 50-meter range, a 5-second chant, a 60-second cooldown. It devoured 300 mana points upon activation. Only those walking the sacred path of the priest could harness its divine might. Pure euphoria washed over Cotton Candy. Wealthy World struck the deal without a second of hesitation. The remaining gold would be delivered on the morrow. White Knight coldly analyzed the situation. He recalled the first blessing of the god of wealth talent. Once a day, the user could shake the mythical money tree. A random bounty would fall, yielding anywhere from 1 to 999 gold coins. Yet, her absolute certainty in paying 500 gold tomorrow told a deeper story. The true power of that supreme talent lay hidden in its other 2 mysterious effects. A memory flashed through his calculating mind. Slashing down the bronze-grade boss had yielded 2 precious life soul stones. His eyes narrowed as he proposed another grand bargain. He offered them absolute victory. The first clear of the nightmare difficulty mist forest would be theirs. He would forge them into warriors capable of crushing the hell difficulty. In exchange, his demand was absolute. He claimed all life soul stones. The spoils from the mist forest first clear, and the stones already in their possession. Wealthy World and Maple Leaf exchanged a heavy, calculating gaze. The pact was sealed. Deep within the abyssal dungeon, absolute chaos reigned. While the others desperately clashed with monstrous beasts, White Knight stood like a silent king in the shadows. The system chimed endlessly. Endless waves of experience flooded into his soul with every slaughter. He teetered on the brink of death with a mere single drop of blood. Yet, his ascent to power remained completely unstoppable. A surge of energy erupted. The system announced his ascension to level 9. He claimed 1 core attribute point, 1 precious skill point, and 15 free attribute points to forge his destiny. His thoughts shifted into the shadows. Where was the elusive appraiser? He had crossed treacherous lands for a single purpose: to awaken the true power of his sealed equipment. But the man had vanished without a trace. It defied all logic. Why would a master appraiser abandon his sacred duty for the stroke of a simple brush? He had forsaken his ancient shop, wandering the vast grasslands to capture mere scenery. Suddenly, a chilling system alert shattered the silence. His invincible skeleton champion had been obliterated. The cataclysm trait roared to life. Death was instantly reversed. The fallen giant resurrected within the summon space, completely restored. But the price was steep. It could not cheat death again for 60 grueling minutes. Shock gripped his heart. An absolute, instant execution. The mighty beast possessed nearly 150,000 health points. Yet, It had been erased from existence in a single, devastating heartbeat. Was this the appraiser's doing? A terrifying realization set in. If he had known this non-player character harbored such monstrous strength, he would have hoarded his lifespan with desperate caution. He peered into the abyss. His eyes scanned the jagged, blood-stained rocks below the cliff. A chilling voice echoed from his blind spot. Not bad. For someone commanding mere piles of shattered bone. The phantom materialized. It was 𝐔𝐍𝐃𝐃, the eccentric appraiser and master painter of Novice Village 9527. His level was completely obscured. His health points remained a terrifying mystery. White Knight froze. The man's sheer, untraceable speed defied human comprehension. Jian's eyes narrowed with cold fury. He rarely graced the world with his artistic inspiration. Yet, that pathetic pile of bones had desecrated his masterpiece. He demanded answers. A blood price must be paid for this insult. White Knight offered a desperate tribute of coin. Jian snatched the pouch. His gaze grew piercing. Did he look like a beggar desperate for gold? Still, he would show rare mercy this once. The judgment fell. 100 coins would settle the debt. Furthermore, the boy must take the ruined painting. A masterpiece forged by his divine hands was not for mortal eyes. The kid should be weeping with overwhelming gratitude. White Knight unrolled the sacred scroll. His mind went utterly blank. A 3-year-old child could have smeared a better landscape with dirt. Jian caught the subtle shift in his eyes. The atmosphere instantly plummeted below freezing. A suffocating, lethal aura exploded from the master's body. Survival instincts screamed. White Knight desperately spun a web of lies. It was a monumental misunderstanding. He merely needed to cleanse his soul and purify his hands. Only then could he comprehend the profound, heavenly insights hidden within the brushstrokes. The lethal pressure vanished into thin air. Jian smiled with supreme arrogance. This mortal boy possessed some profound vision after all. His magnificent mood had returned. He offered a divine blessing. Any hidden treasures would be awakened today, completely free of charge. White Knight bowed his head in profound reverence. Jian's piercing eyes scanned the sealed armaments. He acknowledged the boy's formidable strength and heaven-defying luck. Then, a bitter mutter escaped his lips. 4 divine appraisals for a mere 100 coins. He had suffered a catastrophic loss. An ancient incantation rolled from his tongue. Brilliant light shattered the seals. The true nature of the artifacts awakened. The first treasure revealed itself. The legendary shadow boots. Heavy plate armor for the feet, forged for a level 10 warrior. A magnificent dark gold grade artifact. Unbreakable durability, standing at 200 out of 200. It demanded a crushing 80 strength and 50 constitution to wield. The sheer power was staggering. Plus 75 physical defense. Plus 50 magical resistance. An explosive surge of 800 health points. Plus 20 to both mighty strength and unbreakable constitution. And a lethal boost of 10 agility. Movement speed surged by 10%. But its true terror lay in its dormant skill. Shadow Step. The power to dissolve into the absolute void. Speed would erupt by 60% while incoming devastation was weakened by 10%. The phantom state would hold for 30 seconds. It required a punishing 10-minute cooldown. By binding it to his soul, he would instantly master the legendary Ghost Step dance. The second artifact descended from the light. The heavy bone armor. A massive chest plate born of death itself. Bound to level 10, yet harboring infinite potential. It boasted a perfect 3 out of 3 upgrade limit. Another peerless dark gold grade treasure. Its durability was a flawless 200 out of 200. But the physical toll was heavy. A brutal requirement of 100 strength and 80 constitution. It forged an impenetrable fortress. Plus 180 physical defense. Plus 120 magical resistance. A monstrous 1200 health points. Plus 25 to both strength and constitution. Furthermore, it shattered incoming physical strikes, nullifying a flat 100 points of damage. The supreme defense skill lay dormant within. Bone armor. The power to summon a jagged prison of bone to protect the flesh. Upon activation, the armor's damage reduction and reflection effects exploded, amplified by an earth-shattering 300%. The indestructible fortress lasted for 30 seconds. Bound by a strict 10-minute cooldown, it formed half of the legendary bone set, a glorious synergy that granted an overwhelming 10% boost to both raw attack and physical defense. The final revelation struck like lightning. The heavy bone sword. A monstrous two-handed weapon forged for absolute slaughter. bound to level 10 with a flawless 3 out of 3 upgrade potential, the absolute pinnacle of dark gold grade weaponry. Its durability stood unbreakable at 200 out of 200. It demanded an ungodly 120 strength just to lift. The blade promised pure carnage, plus 288 attack power, an explosive plus 50 strength, and every swing unleashed a devastating 30% splash damage upon the battlefield. The embedded skill was Powerful Strike, a devastating technique. It granted attacks a fierce chance to unleash triple damage upon the enemy. It formed the first half of the legendary bone set. The final revealed artifact was the Necklace of the Dead, a level 10 dark gold treasure. Its durability stood absolute at 200 out of 200. Wielding it demanded 100 spirit. The power it offered was monstrous. Plus 80 spell power, plus 500 health, plus 1000 mana. It bolstered spirit by 30, constitution by 10, and agility by 10. Every strike carried a vile curse. It ruthlessly stripped 100 points from the enemy's dual defenses. Even his summoned undead could unleash this horrific affliction. It possessed a dormant skill called the Dead. It slashed fear-based afflictions by 50%. Jian scoffed at the sight. In a normal world, unveiling just one such artifact would cost 100 gold coins. White Knight had practically robbed the old man. Jian issued a stern warning. Keep those cursed bones far away. Never interrupt his sacred sketching again. White Knight commanded him to halt. Jian's patience snapped. Irritation flashed in his ancient eyes. He demanded to know if the boy dared to present another dark gold artifact. Bitter regret gnawed at the appraiser's soul. Offering his services for free was a fatal mistake. He had suffered a monumental loss this time, but the sheer shock shattered his pride. The boy summoned an epic-grade treasure. White Knight brushed it off as mere luck. Before them lay the magnificent robes of the Dead's Whisper. White Knight seized the opening. He demanded a free appraisal for this masterpiece. The standard fee for dark gold had already been extortionate enough. Jian honored his ironclad vow. No coin would cross his palm today. Yet, a bitter truth emerged. His mortal appraisal technique was simply too weak. The epic aura completely rejected his magic. He could not unveil its secrets at all. Shock rippled through White Knight's composed demeanor. Jian defended his honor fiercely. He was but a humble part-time appraiser in a mere novice village. Peering into an epic artifact was beyond his realm. White Knight realized the grim logic in the old man's words. A new path opened. Jian offered to pass down his ancient appraisal technique. A thrilling surge of anticipation gripped White Knight. Mastering this art meant absolute independence. No more extortionate fees in the future. But Jian demanded a steep price for this sacred knowledge first. White Knight questioned the toll. Jian slowly raised 5 weathered fingers. 500 coins? Jian nodded. But these were no ordinary gold pieces. He demanded 500 ancient gold coins, relics of a forgotten era. These were the very first currencies, forged in the fires of creation. The mortal world had abandoned them. They held no official value in the present age. Yet, to eccentric ancient collectors, their worth eclipsed oceans of modern gold. A realization struck White Knight like lightning. Upgrading ordinary copper yielded ancient copper, and his dimensional inventory was already brimming with them. An audacious theory formed in his mind. Would upgrading modern gold manifest ancient gold? Before he could test his divine power, a system chime shattered the silence. Jian had formed a connection with him. A golden quest prompt materialized. Collect ancient gold coins. The absolute mandate was to deliver 500 relics to Jian. The ultimate prize? The subclass skill, basic appraisal technique. The old man turned to vanish into the shadows. Once again, White Knight's commanding voice halted him. Fury boiled in Jian's veins. But as he turned, his breath caught in his throat. White Knight hoisted a massive, groaning sack. The old man's jaw fell open at the staggering mountain of ancient treasure inside. White Knight's gaze remained terrifyingly calm. He demanded the technique at once. Unbridled greed and awe washed over the appraiser. The boy had delivered a miracle. Trembling hands offered up the glowing skill book. The hidden trial was conquered. White Knight seized his hard-earned power. Jian vanished with unnatural speed. But a lingering whisper echoed behind. Return with 10,000 ancient gold coins. Do so, and an even greater legendary secret would be unveiled. The system roared to life once more. A terrifying new trial appeared. Collect ancient gold coins too. The demand was staggering. 10,000 ancient relics. The ultimate reward remained shrouded in mystery. A dangerous smirk crossed White Knight's face. The old man's promise ignited his ambition. Mere basic skills were garbage to him. He triggered his supreme promotion power. Golden light erupted. The skill evolved into the intermediate appraisal technique. He absorbed the divine knowledge instantly. A new title crowned him. Intermediate appraiser. His current mastery began at 0 out of 1,000. With every use, his mystic insight would sharpen. His mastery over the unknown would deepen. Currently, breaking the seals on dark gold gear held a 60% success rate, but epic artifacts were defiant. Only a meager 10% chance of success remained. The ritual required 5 seconds of focus. It demanded a grueling 60-second cooldown, and it devoured 1,000 mana per attempt. This divine art bypassed his mortal skill limits. He channeled his mana into the epic robes. A harsh buzz echoed. The appraisal shattered. 10% was a brutal gamble. He cursed his abysmal luck. He refused to bow to failure. He poured his mana out again and again. The system mercilessly announced defeat. He burned through his energy with sheer, unyielding stubbornness until exhaustion finally struck. Without warning, a new alert pierced his mind. A wild treasure chest lay hidden nearby. Destiny was relentlessly throwing fortunes his way today. A chest meant guardians. If high-level beasts prowled there, a slaughter awaited. He marched toward the coordinates with deadly intent. Ferocious wolves stalked around the gilded prize. A cold smile touched his lips. The stage was perfectly set. He summoned his undead legion from the abyss. The skeletal warriors surged forward like a tide of death. The massive alpha wolf threw its head back. A blood-curdling howl ripped through the air. Dozens of savage beasts answered the call. White Knight merely sneered. An ocean of enemies was exactly what he desired. Bone blades sang a symphony of destruction. The wolves fell in a gruesome massacre. The towering alpha thrashed in agony. Its lifeblood soaked the earth as it finally perished. Absolute disappointment washed over White Knight. His undead vanguard hadn't even assumed formation yet. The mighty beast was already a lifeless corpse. The system chimed its glorious hymn of victory. He had slaughtered a level 10 reinforced elite, the Prairie Vicious Wolf. A 50% level gap bonus activated, plus 450 experience points surged into his soul. But the real prize was the level 10 silver grade boss. The Prairie Wolf King was vanquished. The 50% bonus triggered again. A massive wave of 36,000 experience points flooded him. The spoils included 1 gold coin and 38 silver coins. The bounty continued. A level 1 agility gem gleamed in the dirt. Beside it lay a basic skill book. Golden light erupted around his body. Level 10 achieved. His core attributes swelled by 1 to 4 points. He claimed 1 new skill point and 15 free attribute points. A server-wide announcement shook the heavens. He was the absolute pioneer. The first mortal in the Myriad Worlds Game Blue Star Zone to break level 10. The legendary title, Far Ahead, was forged into his name. A dangerous, intoxicating thought seized him. Could his supreme power elevate a wild treasure chest? He reached out his hand and unleashed the promotion aura. A blinding light exploded. Success. Without hesitation, White Knight ripped the legendary chest open. The spoils of victory finally materialized. A golden radiance pierced the gloom. The weird wood staff had dropped. Alongside it lay a prize of equal worth. A gold-grade treasure map, only 2 items. A fleeting shadow of disappointment crossed his eyes. But the map pulsed with untold promise. Its ancient ink whispered of hidden riches. A path forged straight toward a gold-grade chest. The system chimed with a cold, mechanical prompt. Would he break the seal? 1 single command would carve the hunting route. The path would burn itself entirely into his interface. He traced the distant coordinates. They lay far beyond these safe borders. Then, a sudden alert flashed red across his vision. He had hit the absolute ceiling. The novice village could contain his power no longer. His growth had completely stagnated. Experience points would now dry up entirely. To shatter this bottleneck, he needed the village chief. It was time to claim his rightful domain. Level 10 was the absolute limit. This cradle was meant to be abandoned. He set his sights on the Elder. But first, a mere thought triggered his power. He casually elevated the treasure map to a higher realm. The parchment violently mutated. It darkened into a majestic, dark gold tier artifact. A glowing crimson line snaked across his vision. The true destination was locked. The desolate lands beyond Jingu City awaited. The ethereal voice commanded him to march. The hunt for legendary wealth had officially begun. The distance was astronomical. It demanded a grueling journey across foreign lands. He shelved the ambition for now. Patience was a hunter's greatest weapon. Elsewhere, the oppressive air of a dungeon shattered. Guildmaster Hong Tu emerged from the abyss. A server-wide broadcast detonated across Novice Village number 9527. Grand Hegemony Guild had claimed absolute glory. The hard-tier Land of Mist had been conquered. Hong Tu barked ruthless orders at his weary soldiers. There was no time to bleed. The nightmare difficulty was their next prey. But before they could march, the sky flared again. A new broadcast seized the heavens. The realm trembled under a new name. Wealthy World had struck first. Her elite vanguard had just butchered the nightmare realm. The Land of Mist had completely fallen to her blade. Disbelief violently contorted Hong Tu's face. A bitter pill of defeat choked his throat. How had they bypassed the slaughter so swiftly? He roared his furious demands into the void. Wealthy World offered only a mocking blessing of luck. His blood boiled with venomous rage. The White Knight was to blame. That rogue had fed her exclusive, god-tier arsenals. The White Knight had crossed a fatal line. Hong Tu carved a vow of bloody vengeance into his heart. Meanwhile, the victorious queen ordered her vanguards to breathe. The true slaughter awaited them. Hell difficulty would be their next farming ground. Suddenly, the very fabric of the Blue Star Zone quaked. A golden decree descended from the system gods. Divine Dragon Empire's own White Knight had ascended. He was the absolute first to shatter the level 10 barrier. This unprecedented feat fractured the system's timeline. The seals on the power rankings shattered. The Novice Village leaderboard descended from the heavens far too early. The monument of village number 9527 revealed its absolute truths. Sitting upon the undisputed throne was White Knight. Level 10. A lone wolf unbound by any faction. Far below him stood the mortals. Rank 2 went to Maple Leaf Xiao at level 5. Rank 3 was claimed by Away. Rank 4 belonged to Hard to Wake Up. All stagnating at level 5. All wandering without a master. Rank 5 bore the name Wealthy World. Rank 6 held Cotton Candy. Both trapped at level 5. Only at rank 7 did a banner finally appear. Grand Hegemony of the Hegemony Guild. Rank 8 belonged to One Sword Seal's throat. Rank 9 was carved by Turkey Flavor Rice Crust. Both stuck at level 5. Both loyal hounds of hegemony. Finally, rank 10 was claimed by Milky White Snow. Another level 5 pawn of hegemony. Staring at the massive gap, Hong Tu's face twisted into a demonic scowl. This absolute humiliation would not stand. Cotton Candy's voice trembled with sheer awe. The White Knight's progression defied the laws of reality. Maple Leaf Xiao nodded in numb agreement. It was not mere grinding. The man was soaring upon the wings of a dragon. Mere hours ago, during their exchange, he was only level 8. Now, the chasm had widened exponentially. Clenching the newly acquired life soul stones, Wealthy World made her decisive move. She would offer them as tribute to the king. Her instincts screamed a singular, undeniable truth. Forging an ironclad alliance with this monster was paramount. He was the undisputed apex predator of this era. She dismissed her vanguard to the shadows. Striding forth alone, she tracked down the lone conqueror. With absolute reverence, she surrendered 10 basic life soul stones, the bleeding spoils of their nightmare conquest. Her eyes burned with fierce ambition. If any god-tier relics fell into his grasp, she demanded first rights. Mountains of gold would be spilled. The price would never dictate the transaction. The void echoed with a binding truth. Their karmic contract was absolute and fulfilled. He met her gaze with a chilling calm. As long as her coffers overflowed, his treasury would remain endlessly open. He turned his back to the wind. A final decree left his lips. Seek him out once more. But only when she finally clawed her way out of this starting cradle. A triumphant smirk grazed her lips. Tethering her fate to his was an absolute masterstroke. Meanwhile, the White Knight approached a dilapidated structure. Destiny pulsed heavily from within its ancient walls. The wooden doors groaned open. A grizzled man with a heavy brown beard stepped into the light. Astonishment clouded his ancient eyes. A descender had breached level 10 at terrifying speeds. The village chief stood before him. White Knight issued a cold, unwavering demand. He was severing his ties to this starting ground. The chief offered a solemn nod. This god-forsaken realm was fated to fall. The descenders would eventually inherit the earth. With a heavy gesture, the elder led the way. Ancient runes ignited upon the dusty floorboards. A summoning circle flared to life in the center of the room. The chief ordered him to step into the burning light. Their humble hamlet was chained to East Sea City, a towering bastion of immense power. It was one of the 10 great Level 1 capitals of the Divine Dragon Empire, the absolute jewel of the prosperous coastal domain. The Elder's voice echoed through the arcane hum. This was merely the prologue. Setting foot in East Sea City would ignite the true crucible. His legendary saga was just breathing its very first breath. A rare vow of gratitude fell from the knight's lips. If the threads of fate permitted, he would return to settle this debt. In a flash of blinding light, he vanished. The old chief was left alone, exhaling a breath heavy with sorrow. The shadows stretched across the ancient room. A chaotic storm was brewing over this god-forsaken land once more. The chief muttered a grim prophecy to the wind. Rivers of blood would soon drown them all. The impending body count would be incalculable. Far away in the shadows, doubt violently festered. Zhu questioned Ruyan's dark obsession. Could this invincible white knight truly be the ghost of Mubai? But Ruyan's eyes remained dead and hollow. The truth of his identity was entirely irrelevant to her. A sinister confidence radiated from her very soul. Once their paths crossed, he would be hopelessly ensnared. Her palm would become his inescapable cage. Elsewhere, the spatial tear violently sealed itself. White Knight materialized on the stone streets of East Sea City. He inhaled the salty, hyper-realistic air. The sensory details of this realm were deeply unnerving. Yet, a cold frustration gripped him. Shattering the novice chains had yielded no grand spoils. The spatial transition felt utterly empty. Suddenly, a dark resonance exploded within his mind. The system shrieked a glorious notification. His death scripture had forcibly evolved to level 10. This forbidden profession was eternally bound to his soul. It could never be shattered, stolen, or surrendered. The dark grimoire answered only to his mental command, manifesting and vanishing like a phantom blade. It now sat proudly at level 10. Perfectly synchronized with his catastrophic strength, the monstrous stats flooded his interface. An explosive boost of 300 spell power. A raw surge of 100 points to every single attribute. But the true horror lay in the undead scaling. His minions would unleash 100% more devastation. Every phantom he raised would inherit this godlike fury. A demonic, passive ability awakened within the pages. The terrifying soul siphon. Any life extinguished by his hand, or his legion, would be brutally drained. A fragment of their dying soul would permanently fuel his ascension. His presence corrupted the very laws of reality. Beasts slain by his magic suffered twice the respawn agony. But against real players, he was an absolute nightmare. Death by his hand triggered double penalties. He would literally rip away their real-world lifespan. His soul reserve sat at absolute 0. He needed to devour 1,000 souls. Only then could he tear open the death scripture a second time. Its next hidden power demanded level 30. This ancient tome was bound to him alone. By fulfilling its dark conditions, he could master the forbidden arts of the Death Sovereign. The terrifying double death penalty intrigued him, but the promise of exclusive sovereign skills fueled his true ambition. He forced the heavy cover open. Radiant, blood-red runes floated into the air. His own eyes ignited with the same unholy light. A new power awakened within him. The death gaze. Agony ripped through his mind. But he endured the absolute torment. Death gaze was a triple S rank authority, currently at level 1, with 0 out of 50 mastery. This active ability carried devastating laws. First, it inflicted absolute true damage, striking with 50% of his spell power every second, for 10 grueling seconds. Second, unending terror would paralyze his victims. Third, any lesser being caught in his sight would suffer instant suppression. All their attributes would violently plunge by 20%. This domination was tied to the hierarchy of life itself. No amount of resistance could defy this absolute law. Fourth, those slain by this gaze would die in unimaginable agony. Even upon resurrection, a curse would bind them. A devastating 40% weakness lasting 12 hours. The cast was instantaneous. It demanded a 60-second cooldown and consumed 5% of his total mana. No channeling was required, and his lethal vision extended up to 100 meters. To put it simply, wherever his eyes landed, the Grim Reaper followed. The continuous true damage was staggering, but the evolution traits thrilled him even more. Soon, both its destruction and reach could easily double. Yet the idea of killing anything he stared at felt almost too wicked. Suddenly, the surrounding air grew heavy. A mysterious figure materialized from the void. The stranger marveled at finding such apocalyptic power among the newcomers. He declared the young warrior to be blessed by fate, yet cursed by destiny. The sovereign demanded his name. The intruder stood tall, his long silver hair and flowing beard glowing with ethereal energy. This was 𝐔𝐑𝐃𝐃, the supreme lord of East Sea City and a revered elder of the Divine Dragon Hall. His level was a bottomless abyss, completely unreadable. The young warrior offered a calculated greeting. 𝐔𝐑𝐃's ancient eyes flashed with intense brilliance. He confirmed the foul stench of true death clinging to the boy. The elder's gaze pierced through all illusions. He saw the sovereign-class mantle, a supreme path that defied the very laws of this god-forbidden land. The young sovereign braced himself. His deepest secret had been effortlessly exposed. Yet, the ancient lord only released a heavy sigh, calling it a tragic waste. Walking the path of death meant facing heavenly tribulation. His future would be infinitely more brutal than any other sovereign. Eyes narrowed, the young warrior demanded the truth behind those words. 𝐔𝐑𝐃 declared that words were meaningless without strength. A brutal trial would serve as his answer. Only by surviving could he unlock the secrets of the Death Sovereign. A cold system prompt shattered the silence. He had obtained a cursed relic, the Medal of the Forgotten. An epic-grade tribulation named 𝐔𝐑𝐃's test had forcefully begun. The objective was suffocatingly bleak. Purge the land of the Forgotten and achieve 100% exploration. The reward was shrouded in mystery. Strangely, there was absolutely no penalty for failure. The young sovereign froze in sheer disbelief. An epic mission had simply fallen into his lap. Without warning, the cursed metal began its fatal countdown. Spatial energy violently tore at the surroundings. He cursed under his breath. There was no time to prepare or forge his ultimate gear. Frustration roared from his lungs. He demanded to know where this godforsaken teleportation array was even hidden. The spatial rift violently spat him out. Welcome to the land of the Forgotten. 𝐔𝐑𝐃's epic test was fully active. He had exactly 72 hours to annihilate everything and achieve 100% exploration. Danger radiated from the very soil. He instantly called upon his undead legion. The towering skeleton mage materialized from the abyss. Its horrific stats were displayed in blood-red text. 5,080 spirit, 580 agility and constitution, 20,640 health points. Its spell power reached 10,160, shielded by 1,693 physical defense. Its terrifying arsenal featured a rank E, level 9 fireball, unleashing 220% of spell power as Hellfire. It required a mere 1.5-second incantation, with a 30-second cooldown. A chilling smile crept across his face. Armed with Hellfire, his legion was truly lethal. From the surrounding darkness, a sea of hostile skeletons surged forward. They were level 20 normal monsters. 5,000 health, 210 attack power, 120 physical defense, and 80 magic defense. This forsaken wasteland was utterly infested with them. They were weak, but swarmed like a plague. He raised his hand and issued the sovereign's decree: slaughter them all. A mechanical chime confirmed the first level 20 kill. A 50% level gap bonus flooded his system. He harvested 30 experience points. His far ahead absolute trait activated, granting an extra 6 experience. His brows knitted together in grim confusion. Why did these level 20 nightmares yield less experience than the level 10 beasts from before? Regardless, the slaughter was profitable. The undead tide seemed endless. Notification bells rang like a relentless death knell. His legion crushed wave after wave of level 20 skeletons. It was time to unleash his new authority. He activated the death gaze. The moment his eyes locked onto the horde, their bones shattered into dust. Instant annihilation. The power was absolute. The triple S rank skill dominated the battlefield. A grim irony crossed his mind. These creatures were already dead, yet he was butchering them all over again. He unleashed hell without a shred of mercy, his mana recovering rapidly. He ripped open the death scripture to claim his prize. The page remained dark. 0 soul points. A heavy silence fell over him. This defied all logic. He had personally severed their connections to this world. Who dared to steal his rightful soul harvest? A hollow, spectral voice pierced the suffocating gloom. It whispered the true nature of this cursed domain, the land of the forgotten. In life, they had been condemned by a horrifying hex. Now, their tormented souls were chained here for eternity. A spectral phantom manifested from the mist. He named himself Road, an eternal prisoner, a level 20 special elite phantom, boasting 100,000 out of 100,000 health points. His ethereal form completely negated all physical strikes. The sovereign demanded the origin of this absolute curse. Rhodes' hollow voice echoed with despair. No soul could be reaped until the ancient chains were broken. The young sovereign's eyes narrowed. How could he shatter this law? The phantom slowly raised a ghostly finger toward a sinister pillar of light. His vision pierced the blinding aura. Suspended within was a massive coffin, bound by heavy, dark chains. The lid was violently cracked open. A horrifying skeleton, draped in long, pitch-black hair, lurked inside. Fear was an emotion that the sovereign had long discarded. He marched directly toward the ominous artifact, but as the deathly aura crashed over them, even his mindless undead legion trembled in dread. White Knight narrowed his eyes at the bizarre sarcophagus. The system identified it as the soul-locking coffin. Its defenses were absolute. A staggering 1 million shield points, 1,000 physical and magical defense. A cold mechanical chime echoed in his mind. Finding this relic pushed his exploration rate up by 2%. Shattering it would grant him another 3%. But a blood-red warning flashed before his eyes. Breaking the seal would unleash an unspeakable horror. The system strictly advised caution. One wrong move meant certain death. Rhodes frantically pushed him to break it open. But White Knight remained perfectly calm. A fearless smirk crossed his face. He wanted to witness this supposed terror for himself. With a flick of his wrist, the command was given. His skeletal army surged forward like a tidal wave. Rusty blades rained down upon the ancient wood. Relentless strikes echoed through the dark cavern. The massive shield bar quickly crumbled into the red zone. Rhodes trembled in pure terror. He screamed that the monster was waking up. Yet, White Knight just watched with cold fascination. Suddenly, an explosive force shattered the heavy lid. A monstrous skeletal titan clawed its way out. Thick, cursed chains bound its massive frame. This was Neil, one of the legendary Forgotten Ones, a level 20 dark gold-grade boss, a dread-inducing half-frost lich. His vitality pool was terrifying. A monstrous 1,500,000 health points, 12,800 spell power pulsed from his core, 1,500 physical defense, 2,100 magic defense. He boasted 20% elemental resistance, wielding devastating frost and shadow curses. The failed ascension was obvious. He had been trapped between mortality and pure lichdom. Now awakened, Neil locked his hollow eyes onto White Knight. Pure, murderous rage burned within those empty sockets. This insignificant mortal had ruined his ultimate evolution. Rhodes shrieked in absolute panic, begging to retreat. But the raging lich suddenly froze in place. A suffocating aura of death radiated from White Knight. Neil sensed this supreme, intoxicating energy. If he devoured this invader's soul, his ascension would be flawless. Supreme power was finally within his grasp. White Knight met the monster's greedy gaze without flinching. He raised a single, condescending eyebrow. His voice cut through the chilling air like ice. Who gave you the delusion that you could consume a king? With a cold gesture, the slaughter began. The skeletal vanguard swarmed the towering lich. Blades flashed from every conceivable blind spot. But the monstrous boss merely sneered. His dark aura provided impenetrable armor. He mocked these pathetic, brittle summons. With a single devastating sweep of his arm, he pulverized several of White Knight's warriors into bone dust. But his arrogant laughter was cut brutally short. A storm of armor-piercing arrows darkened the sky. They slammed into his barrier with terrifying force. Neil stared at the human, absolute shock shattering his confidence. He roared into the darkness, demanding the invader's true identity. How could a mere mortal command such an elite legion of the dead? Desperate, the Lich conjured a massive wall of glacial ice to survive the barrage. Refusing to be outdone, Neil summoned his own nightmare guard. A grotesque level 20 ghoul dragged itself from the shadows. It held 150,000 health points. Its offensive power sat at 1,960, backed by 800 physical and 700 magical defense. It wielded the lethal Iron Hook Strike and a suffocating disease cloud. The abomination was a sickening patchwork of butchered flesh. Trailing behind it came an endless swarm of ghastly minions. These level 20 fiends were no joke. Each carried 80,000 health points and 1,580 attack power. With 500 physical and 420 magic defense, their deadly skill, 𝐔𝐑𝐃, promised to shred armor instantly. A nauseating stench of decay washed over the cavern. White Knight frowned in sheer disgust. He waved a hand in front of his face. This battlefield had suddenly become a filthy, foul-smelling cesspool. It was time to end this pathetic struggle. His eyes flared with abyssal energy as he activated Death Gaze. The system confirmed the ultimate lock-on. The Forgotten Kneel was now marked for execution. A supreme suppression crushed the boss. Because the Sovereign's life tier eclipsed the monster's, Kneel's stats plummeted by 40%. White Knight was slightly caught off guard. His awakening as a Death Sovereign had elevated his very existence to a godlike state. The Lich staggered as his monstrous strength evaporated. Panic gripped his decaying heart. What kind of forbidden magic was this? But White Knight offered no mercy and no hesitation. He ordered his legion to sweep away this foul trash. Leave absolutely nothing alive in this chamber. The skeletal army unleashed a hurricane of steel and magic. Brutal, unrelenting damage shredded the enemy ranks to pieces. The mighty boss was quickly buried beneath the relentless assault. A final pathetic shriek tore from his throat. He cursed the heavens, begging not to fade back into oblivion. A golden victorious chime pierced the silence. The level 20 dark gold boss had been successfully annihilated. A massive 50% experience bonus triggered. 750,000 experience points flooded into his soul. His exclusive far-ahead talent simultaneously flared to life. Another glorious 150,000 experience points surged forward. Golden light completely enveloped his body. He violently shattered his limits, advancing straight to level 12. His core attributes all permanently increased by 1. A precious skill point was securely banked. He also received 15 free attribute points to command. White Knight exhaled softly, honestly disappointed by how effortlessly the legendary monster had fallen. Within the ashes of the boss, a dark relic gleamed. He retrieved the cursed crown fragment, a dark gold-grade treasure. It was merely one single piece of a legendary artifact set. Gathering every piece would trigger an automatic restoration. The fully forged crown possessed heaven-defying power, but it bore a sinister catch. The wearer would endure endless corruption, their soul constantly devoured by abyssal death energy. He clicked his tongue in deep irritation. The lesser mobs had dropped absolutely nothing of value. Even the mighty boss had proven to be pathetically stingy. Still, assembling this cursed crown was now inevitable. Such high-tier fragments promised unimaginable potential. Once fully restored, the artifact would easily break into the epic-grade realm. He securely stored the dangerous relic into his void inventory for later. Like a phantom, Road materialized right before him. He gasped in pure awe, marveling that the boy had completely obliterated the cursed Lich. He eagerly proposed they hunt down their next victim. Before stammering and quickly correcting his dark slip of the tongue, they were on a grand mission to rescue the next lost soul, of course. Road frantically pointed deeper into the suffocating darkness. The next target was waiting just ahead, but he warned that the coming battle would be infinitely more treacherous. White Knight let out a long, exhausted sigh. There was actually another one of these headaches? He crossed his arms defensively. If the risk outweighed the reward, he was perfectly fine turning back right now. Sensing his hesitation, Road desperately whipped out a glowing grimoire, a shameless bribe to keep his bodyguard moving forward. White Knight glared at the shady guide with intense suspicion. Why the hell did he hide such treasure until absolutely necessary? The ancient tome was titled Corpse Explosion, a deadly C-rank active skill resting at level 1. It violently detonated any fallen carcass on the battlefield. A shockwave of pure magic damage would vaporize enemies within a 5-meter radius. The only restriction was an immunity granted to boss remains. The lethal formula calculated 10% of the corpse's maximum health, then fused it with 100% of the caster's raw spell power for devastating results. It boasted a commanding 30-meter cast range and fired instantly. The cooldown was 30 seconds, draining 300 mana per use. A thrill of dark excitement coursed through White Knight. This was the catastrophic area of effect power he desperately craved. Without a shred of hesitation, he forced the skill to evolve. Dark light surged as it shattered into the B-rank tier. Now known as Advanced Corpse Explosion, its lethality doubled. The blast radius expanded to a brutal 10-meter zone of absolute carnage. The destruction scaling spiked to 15% of the target's maximum health, fused with a godlike 150% spell power multiplier. The cast range stretched to 50 meters, keeping the instant cast and 30-second cooldown. The only trade-off was a heavier toll of 600 mana per blast. He instantly tested his newly forged weapon on a mangled carcass. Boom! A catastrophic shockwave of dark magic ruptured outward. The terrifying blast completely wiped out everything within its massive crater. Even he was deeply shaken by the sheer, devastating force he had just unleashed. Road danced around like a fool, showering him with desperate praises. White Knight completely tuned out the annoying chatter. An absolute grin formed on his face, securing his ultimate crowd control weapon. Mass slaughtering hordes of enemies would now be frighteningly efficient. Over an hour of relentless marching passed by. White Knight stared into the endless abyss, finally realizing something. This forsaken land of the forgotten was dangerously massive, hiding secrets yet unseen. A final shadow blocked his path. Walter the Forgotten stood as his seventh adversary. White Knight unleashed a devastating corpse explosion. Yet, the warrior stubbornly clung to life. A dying curse spilled from his lips. He swore inevitable ruin upon White Knight. Then, his life extinguished. He crumbled to dust, leaving behind the seventh and final fragment. White Knight prepared for the synthesis. Rhodes screamed in absolute terror. He begged him to stop. He warned of absolute soul erosion. But the shards were already resonating. A dark crown took shape. White Knight demanded an explanation for his panic. Rhodes simply trembled. His eyes locked onto the dark artifact. Hope drained from his voice. The ritual could not be stopped. A mechanical voice echoed in his mind. The cursed crown had been forged. The shattered remnants merged into one. An ancient, malevolent artifact, returned to its former glory. His conquest of this realm reached 50%. His theory proved entirely correct. The ascended fragments elevated the artifact. Its dark power surged to a superior tier. Half of the abyss remained uncharted. Unseen horrors still lurked in the shadows. Rhodes shrieked in desperation. He pleaded with him to cast the unholy crown aside. The necrotic energy would devour his mind. He would become a mindless husk, a mere puppet of the abyss. Yet, White Knight stood completely paralyzed. Rhodes screamed one final warning. He begged him to discard the cursed artifact. Then, the system issued a grim verdict. Lethal necrotic energy began to invade his flesh, but his vessel was already overflowing. His core surged with absolute dark power. He had reached his mortal limit. He could not absorb a single drop more. The overflowing curse simply washed over him. It left him completely unharmed. Then, the earth violently convulsed. White Knight instantly snapped to attention. Did an apex predator slumber beneath them? He barked a swift command. His skeletal legion formed a defensive wall. An eerie, pale radiance bled from the cracked earth. Rhodes recognized the oppressive aura instantly. Absolute despair twisted his spectral face. A crimson sarcophagus breached the surface. Gilded edges gleamed with ancient malice. The system delivered a chilling revelation. The crown had sounded the alarm. The dread Lich Franklin had awakened. His eternal slumber in the forgotten wasteland was over. Rhodes howled with ancient grief. This was the architect of their doom. This monster had condemned their world to oblivion. He begged White Knight to slaughter the fiend. He offered his very soul in exchange. White Knight looked at the spectral figure. This mere guide had become a true comrade. He solemnly accepted the burden of vengeance. The spectral panel flickered to life. The phantom was the fallen ruler of Sunset Town. Only a fragile remnant of his spirit remained. He manifested as a level 20 special elite. His ethereal vitality held at 100,000 points. His soul possession skill could amplify core power by 20%. Physical blades could never harm his ghostly form. The fog of amnesia finally shattered. He remembered his noble past. He was the proud mayor. Now, he existed as the solitary phantom of a dead city. White Knight locked in the hidden destiny. He accepted the mayor's final plea. The absolute objective was to execute Lich Franklin. The ultimate reward remained shrouded in mystery. The spectral blessing surged through him. His spiritual power erupted by 20%. Rhodes bowed in profound gratitude. The Lich possessed monstrous strength. The phantom swore to fight until his final essence faded. The legendary architect of the Forgotten Realm emerged. Franklin stood as a level 20 Frost Lich. Ancient battle scars hindered his true might. His divine level had plummeted, yet he remained an epic catastrophe. His vitality stood at a maximum of 15 million points, with 5 million currently remaining. His arcane power reached 48,000. His physical armor rated at 5,000. His magical barrier fortified at 8,000. He completely nullified 95% of frost. He shrugged off shadow and death. He commanded the ultimate trinity of dark magic. He was absolute death incarnate. His fractured soul barely diminished his threat. He radiated pure, lethal malice. The Lich mocked the floating phantom. He sneered at the pathetic mayor who defied death. Then his hollow gaze shifted. He tasted the dark resonance of his lost artifact. He commanded the cursed crown to obey. He demanded the return of his supreme authority, but the artifact remained utterly silent. White Knight stood resolute and unyielding. His cold voice pierced the tension. He declared the artifact had found a superior master. The cursed crown radiated legendary malevolence. It dominated the tier 10 to 20 realm. Its indestructible essence boasted 1 million durability points. Only the Lich was destined to wield it. Yet, the Death Sovereign defied all logic. White Knight forcefully dominated the artifact. Slaying the true owner would shatter the ultimate restriction. It unleashed devastating raw power. It granted an impenetrable physical barrier of 100. Magic shielding surged by 200. Vitality exploded by 2,000. Arcane reserves multiplied by 4,000. Every fundamental trait skyrocketed by 75. White Knight fearlessly crowned himself. Spiritual might surged by 10%. Curse immunity fortified by 30%. But a ceaseless parasitic rot plagued the wearer. The crown awakened its first dreadful art. It unleashed the power of curse, a passive dominion over absolute ruin. Every spell cast would carry a crippling hex. Twin curses would strike without mercy. They would torment the prey for 5 brutal seconds. The power cycled every 5 seconds. The second art was a terrifying domain of decay. The curse aura instantly corrupted the battlefield. It dominated a massive 100-meter radius. Every enemy suffered a devastating 30% speed penalty. Strikes, movement, and incantations dragged like heavy chains. It drained 200 mana continuously, fueled by endless malice. Franklin unleashed his elite vanguard. A legion of level 20 Shadow Knights materialized. Each boasted 200,000 vitality points. Their blades carried 6,800 devastation. Their dual defenses stood unyielding at 1,800. They commanded dark charges and abyssal shields. They wielded the raw power of the shadows. The army of an epic catastrophe eclipsed any gold adversary. This was a true legion of despair. White Knight felt zero hesitation. He met the vanguard with absolute aggression. He roared a merciless command. His bone legion surged forward like a tidal wave. Skeletal lances violently shattered the spectral steeds. A devastating tempest of bone arrows blotted out the sky. White Knight unleashed his new domain. The dark aura exploded outward. A crushing gravity instantly seized the enemy. Their brutal momentum vanished completely. Their elite charge became a pathetic crawl. The Lich shrieked in absolute impotent fury. A cold smile graced White Knight's face. He stood triumphant at level 15. 2 legendary artifacts pulsed with supreme power. The death scripture had pushed his limits beyond mortality. His battle power had multiplied exponentially since his arrival. He was an entirely different beast now. Only one minor regret lingered. The Dark Crown had reached its absolute zenith. The Lich promised him 1,000 eternities of torment. He warned him of impending slaughter. White Knight's eyes burned with cold indifference. He promised the monster a swift and brutal execution. He unleashed his ultimate ocular technique. The death gaze locked onto the Lich. The system weighed their very souls. White Knight's sovereign existence crushed the monster's hierarchy. The Curse of Agony instantly ignited. Absolute shadow damage ravaged the boss every single second. It tore through him with complete spell power devastation for 5 heartbeats. The mighty Lich collapsed to the dirt. Absolute shock shattered his ancient pride. He gasped out a desperate demand for his identity. He stared at the human with newfound terror. White Knight offered only cold, silent contempt. This ultimate disrespect pushed the Lich into blinding rage. A mere mortal dared to mock a sovereign of death. The great Lich roared his absolute decree. White Knight would rot in the abyss of the forgotten. His true identity meant nothing. A howling vortex of dark magic erupted from Franklin's core. He craved this human's blood. But more than that, he coveted the hero's immense power. The Lich chanted a forbidden name. Chaos. A colossal, undead bone dragon materialized from the shadows. Level 20. Battle scars had crippled its original might. Yet, make no mistake, this beast remained an epic-grade terror. 20 million health points, 12,000 raw attack power, 10,000 physical defense, 6,000 magic defense, and a 30% resistance to all death elements. A walking fortress of bones, the creature commanded absolute destruction, bone prison, bone spike, hell, death storm. A system prompt shattered the silence. The entity named Sis had descended. White Knight's exploration rate had now struck 90%. White Knight braced himself against the shockwave. A mythical bone dragon. Here, now. The trial set by the Emerald City Lord was no mere test. It was a brutal death sentence. Chaos unhinged its massive jaws. A torrent of blazing, decaying breath annihilated the air. Instantly, a legion of skeleton warriors surged forward. They forged a wall of bone. The catastrophic blast was miraculously deflected. Disbelief twisted Franklin's skeletal visage. Mere foot soldiers. Trash tier summons. Yet they stood unyielding against a dragon's supreme wrath. The system chimed once more. White Knight had drained all his death energy points to cast an absolute blessing. The target skeleton's attributes skyrocketed by 640%. But divine power demanded a brutal price. The cursed crown's dark erosion gnawed fiercely at his soul. Yet, the abyss fed him. Death energy surged by plus 10 points. The harvest had begun anew. This cursed crown was no mere artifact. It was an infinite reservoir of absolute power. A predatory grin crossed the hero's face. It was time to show true dominance. The mighty Lich stumbled backward in shock. Absolute fury consumed Franklin. He shrieked in rage. How dare a mortal wield his sacred crown? The Lich raised his staff. Frost hell erupted. A spear of absolute zero pierced straight toward White Knight's chest. Maniacal laughter echoed through the cavern. The Lich reveled in his guaranteed victory. A frail human vessel should have shattered instantly. But the laughter abruptly died. Something was terribly wrong. The mortal had mastered the life-sharing art. Yet, even that divine shield carried a fatal flaw. Panic fueled the Lich's next strike. He chanted the forbidden incantation. Death and decay. The ground rotted into a cursed swamp. Massive skeletal hands erupted from the soil. Bone prison. The hero was sealed within a cage of despair. The onslaught did not end. Bone spike hell. The earth violently fractured. Hundreds of jagged spears impaled the air. White Knight's loyal undead army was brutally skewered. The strategy was crystal clear. Area of effect, devastation. Franklin aimed to overload the life-sharing tether. White Knight reacted with clinical precision. He instantly unsummoned the weak links. The battlefield cleared. The tether was now completely unbreakable. A new command echoed through the dark. Hunt the king. If the Lich fell, the entire undead horde would crumble. It was time for a brutal, direct execution. A shadow lunged at Franklin. The Lich recoiled in horror. A single enhanced skeleton had breached his absolute defense. Dark magic blasted the minion mercilessly. White Knight commanded his soldier. Endure the pain. The relentless barrage took a devastating toll. The brave skeleton shattered into 1,000 fragments. Franklin declared his ultimate triumph. The human had failed, but a cold smirk appeared on White Knight's face. He called the Lich a pathetic joke. The system glowed crimson. Death energy points sacrificed. From the shattered remains, the reinforced skeleton reassembled. It rose from the dust once more. True terror gripped Franklin's rotten heart. The nightmare was marching forward again. Fear paralyzed the great Lich. His feet were rooted to the cursed earth. A single, devastating strike cleaved the air. The sovereign of death was annihilated. The system declared the absolute truth. White Knight had slain Franklin. A glorious 70% experience boost triggered. 12,750,000 experience points flooded his soul. A golden pillar of light descended. Level 17 reached. +1 to all attributes. +1 skill point. +15 free attribute points secured. But the massacre was not over. The level 20 epic boss had fallen. The mighty bone dragon, 𝐔𝐃𝐃, was no more. Another 70% bonus activated. 25 million experience points crashed into him like a tidal wave. The golden light erupted twice more. He ascended to level 19. Power surged through his veins. +1 to all attributes. +1 skill point. +15 free attribute points ready for war. History had been rewritten. The first mortal in the entire Blue Star Zone to slaughter an epic grade boss. The heavens rewarded this living legend. +100 to his main attribute. +50 skill points. And 50 intermediate life soul stones claimed. White Knight clenched his fists. The raw power was intoxicating. Even he stood in awe of his own monstrous, unstoppable growth. His gaze shifted to the radiant stones. The looming shadow of death had been banished. 50 advanced life soul stones sat in his palm. Each stone held the power to extend his mortal life by 1 full year. Without hesitation, he devoured their essence. Brilliant energy washed over him. His lifespan skyrocketed to 51 years. In a single breath, the ultimate countdown had been destroyed. A global siren echoed across the heavens. A Blue Star Zone-wide announcement. The name White Knight was etched into the sky. the first player ever to obliterate an epic-grade boss, entirely solo. The guild masters of Wealthy World trembled. They needed to bind themselves to this godlike player immediately. The shockwave reached the lower ranks. Shu turned to Ruan with burning eyes. They had to abandon the novice village now. Finding White Knight was their only path to glory. Ruan smiled a dangerous, calculating smile. She acknowledged his absolute strength. But in the end, he was still just a man. Whether he was known as White Knight or Mubai, her beauty would be the ultimate weapon to conquer him. Meanwhile, the conqueror examined his spoils. A divine aura radiated from his hands. The epic-grade special artifact, the Dragon Skull Pendant. This relic held a terrifying secret. It contained the soul of the undead bone dragon itself. Awe struck the hero's heart. An epic-grade flying mount. The skies of this world would soon belong to him. But epic was simply not enough. He activated the promotion sequence. The pendant transformed into a legendary relic, the Frosthorn. One blast would tear open the abyss. It would summon the legendary apex predator of the undead realm, the Frost Dragon. He raised the frozen horn to his lips. The devastating sound shattered reality. A pitch-black portal violently ripped open. A suffocating aura of pure death flooded the world. The Frost Dragon had descended. Massive glowing eyes locked onto the summoner. Utter disdain radiated from the beast. A mere fragile mortal dared to call upon a king. But before it could roar in fury, a blinding, holy light of purification consumed its gigantic frame. Alarm spiked in White Knight's chest. He ordered the monstrosity to stay back. But a miracle occurred within the light. The raging blizzard calmed. The proud, legendary dragon lowered its massive head. It submitted to its new master completely. The ultimate bond was forged. The mount space violently unlocked. Another server-wide alarm shattered the heavens. The entire Blue Star Zone witnessed history once more. White Knight had secured the very first mount. The Grand Mount leaderboard materialized in the sky. On the battlefield, the colossal beast began to morph. It compressed its terrifying mass. The legendary Frost Dragon rested gently upon his shoulder. A new realm of power lay before him. Mounts possessed their own devastating skill trees and rankings. He inspected his new companion. It was a god-tier advancement class, currently resting at level 0. The beast's growth was chained to his own, its maximum level capped at 10 levels above its master. Absolute devotion, 100 loyalty points, a staggering 200% movement speed boost, and exactly 1 million out of 1 million health points. This was just its dormant state. 20,000 mana points, 12,000 raw physical attack, an apocalyptic 80,000 spell power, 10,000 physical defense, and 12,000 magic defense, a true living weapon. Its defensive plating was absolute. 80% immunity to ice, 70% resistance to water, 60% resistance to absolute dark, and a solid 40% shield against all other elements in existence. The dragon commanded terrifying innate arts, Frost Dragon Breath, Dragon Might, Size Reduction, and as it devoured experience, it would awaken even more catastrophic abilities. Its signature breath was pure annihilation. 300% of its massive spell power converted into sheer ice damage, obliterating everything within a 5-meter radius every single second, inflicting absolute paralysis and slow for 10 agonizing seconds. The true king of the frozen wastes had been born. Dragon Might erupted. The crushing aura of a sovereign descended. It engulfed every living soul within a 1,000-meter radius. Inferior beings trembled. Their attributes plummeted by 10 to 20%. The wider the gap in existence, the heavier the suppression. A twofold gap in power meant twofold despair. The dragon's dominance was absolute. It could even compress its colossal form, a tactical shrinking for narrow battlefields. White Knight stood in awe. The sheer terror of a mythical beast was undeniable. Meanwhile, the global player base descended into madness. The new mount leaderboard had updated. A mythical frost dragon sat at the very top, claimed by none other than White Knight. He existed in an entirely different realm. The rules of reality no longer applied to him. The weak whispered in awe. Comparing mortals to a god was absolute folly. One player stared at his own guild leader, a pathetic level 3 with an F-rank talent. Suddenly, the gap did not hurt so much. Mediocrity was a comforting shield. Deep in the wilds, White Knight fed his majestic beast. Then, Rhodes' voice shattered the silence. He had sensed it. The phylactery's foul energy pulsed nearby. White Knight's gaze sharpened. Rhodes forged ahead. They plunged into the abyss of the forest. There it lay. Franklin's cursed vessel. An epic-grade artifact boasting 1 million out of 1 million points of unbreakable durability. This was a relic from an age of darkness. Forged during the Lich's terrifying prime, it cradled his immortal soulfire. As long as this vessel remained whole, death could never claim him. White Knight scoffed. The sheer absurdity of its defense was almost laughable, but Rode stepped forward, his eyes burned with ancient vengeance. Suddenly, hollow laughter echoed from the vessel. Franklin's vile voice filled the air. The Lich sneered. What could a shattered remnant possibly do? Fury ignited within Rode. He seized the cursed artifact with both hands. He condemned the Lich to oblivion. Franklin violently thrashed against his fate. But destiny had ruled. The vessel shattered. Rode turned to his savior. Gratitude radiated from his phantom form. Phantom tears fell from his eyes. He offered his deepest thanks for saving Sunset Town. In that instant, the heavens chimed. Golden notifications flooded White Knight's vision. 1,000 soul points secured. The level 20 epic boss, the Forgotten, was completely eradicated. An explosive 70% experience multiplier triggered. 12,750,000 experience points flooded his veins. Golden light engulfed him. Level 20 achieved. He gained 1 point to all attributes. 1 skill point earned. 15 free attribute points unlocked. Rode's final wish was fulfilled. 10 million more experience points rained down. 1,000 gold coins materialized. The regional map shattered into absolute clarity. Exploration reached 100%. The grand trial was officially conquered. The system's voice echoed with finality. Return to East Sea City. Claim your destiny from Lord Situ. A king's ransom spilled forth. 1,200,000 gold coins. 20 level 5 attribute gems. 10 epic grade Millennium Ice Crystals. And 24 basic Destiny Soul Stones. Light flashed in the East Sea City Plaza. The streets were utterly barren. Not a single mortal had breached level 10 yet. White Knight smiled. The perfect stage to unleash his new power. He chanted the summoning words. Frost erupted from the void. The dragon materialized in its true apocalyptic form. His only goal now was to find Lord Situ. The hunt for the final reward had begun. He vaulted onto the beast's armored spine. They took to the skies. The city's NPCs looked up in absolute terror. A shadow of death blotted out the sun. The sovereign descended upon Situ's domain. The city lord stepped out, his eyes wide with shock. This young warrior had shattered every single expectation. The beast hit the ground like a meteor. Situ panicked. He ordered the monstrous pet to shrink. His fragile courtyard could not survive such divine weight. They retreated into the grand lounge. Situ's sharp eyes pierced through White Knight's aura. He realized the terrifying truth. This was no ordinary sovereign class. White Knight narrowed his eyes. He demanded answers. Were all sovereign classes not forged equal? Situ's expression turned grave. He did not possess all the answers. But for a victor of the grand trial, he would share forbidden knowledge. White Knight sat in icy silence. Beneath his calm exterior, irritation flared. The old man spoke in riddles but offered no treasure. Where was the promised reward? Situ's voice dropped to a whisper. The Myriad Worlds system operated on a strict hierarchy. First came normal professions, then hidden classes, followed by advanced hidden classes. Beyond that lay the unique hidden professions. And at the absolute pinnacle, the exclusive hidden professions. White Knight's Death Sovereign belonged to that forbidden summit. An exclusive hidden profession. A realm utterly impossible for a mortal, at this stage, to reach. The chains of destiny usually broke at level 29. How had this boy shattered the natural order? Situ stared at him, bewildered by the impossible. The secret of the substitute system remained locked in White Knight's mind. He held his silence, but Situ's face darkened. A grave warning slipped from his lips. Do not celebrate your cursed power just yet. True power demands a terrifying price. The heavier the crown, the harder the climb. To awaken the true Death Sovereign, one thing was required. An ocean of endless death. The god-forsaken land stood on the brink of absolute ruin. War would soon consume the world. The divine Dragon Hall, absolute guardians of the Empire, had chosen him. He must cross the borders. He must conquer the surrounding nations. This was the only path. Only through blood and conquest could humanity prove its worth. Only then could they ascend to the Myriad Worlds. White Knight's gaze turned cold. The national borders were firmly sealed. Situ reached into his robes. He presented a sealed document. Find this man. and deliver the missive. Seek him out in the shadows. He holds the relic to shatter the border seals. White Knight's eyes locked onto the dossier. His breath caught. The face staring back at him was Jian. Suddenly, an ethereal bell tolled. An absolute contract with the Divine Dragon Hall was forcefully forged. The terms were absolute. He alone carried the mandate to conquer foreign lands. Betrayal meant certain death. The Hall's wrath would hunt him to the ends of the earth. But glory offered freedom. Unify the shattered God-forsaken land, and the chains would shatter. The absolute contract would instantly dissolve. 𝐔𝐃 made a solemn vow. Reach the third tier, and the gates of the hall would open. Then he extended his hand. A gleaming token rested in his palm. Unrestricted passage through East Sea City. White Knight grasped the cold metal. It was engraved with 007, a masterwork forged by 𝐔𝐃's own hands. Only a handful of these artifacts existed in the entire world. The token pulsed with authority. He was now the absolute master of courtyard number 0007. His heart hammered against his ribs. Excitement threatened to break his stoic facade. A sanctuary in a Tier 1 city was finally his. The foundation of an empire had been laid. The real slaughter was just beginning. The saga does not end here. The weekly chronicles of this epic tale have shifted. They now awaken in a new domain. Seek out my second realm, the Manhwa Updater. The future remains shrouded in peril. If you seek the truth of what lies ahead, do not hesitate. Step forward. Join our vanguard. Witness the unfolding destiny. I offer my gratitude for your presence. Remain vigilant. Stay formidable. Our paths shall cross again in the next trial.